I'm ready.
Hello,
I'm ready.
everybody. Welcome to the Gamers Tavern. Come in, sit down, and grab a drink as we talk about anything from work to true crime.
Yes.
So, guys, how are we today?
Oh, I'm doing just fucking dandy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got some really exciting news.
Ooh, what is it?
I got accepted to college.
Yes!
Yeah,
Congrats!
fall semester 2025. I'm gonna be a freshman in college. Oh my god, that's gonna be scary because I'm gonna be 23 fucking years old.
Oh, but I am 23.
Huh?
I already am 23.
All right, shut
Yes,
up.
we get you're old.
But
Yeah,
I'm an
old
old
ass.
man, okay?
Old ass bitch.
He's gonna need a cane by next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy him the cane for birthday. You know.
I'll make him one.
Even better.
What?
Free.
What, Zach? Are you gonna weld me one?
I could. I very much could. I have access to lasers, polishers, and welding equipment. I can make one.
That is terrifying.
How is that terrifying? What's terrifying about that?
I don't know. I don't trust it.
I wouldn't either, but that didn't answer my question.
Alright, but anyway, Zach, what about you?
Well, other than being exhausted from work as usual, I'm
Uh,
going to Ohio.
Ew.
Oh.
Specifically, Cleveland, Ohio, a place I almost went to college in.
Ew.
For what, if I don't mind asking?
Well, there's an expo. Do you happen to know the show Supernatural?
Oh my god,
Mhm.
yes, I love Supernatural.
Happen to know the character Sam?
Yeah.
I'm going to meet him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and kind of speaking about Supernatural, did you guys see that that the actor for Dean, Sam, and Castiel are gonna be in The Boys?
No.
Really?
All three of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's see, I'm pretty sure Dean's voice actor was already in it, but
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause I do remember something about that.
But Sam's and Castiel are gonna be new.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll have to ask him about that.
I'm grabbing my alcoholic beverages right now. I'm putting it in the fridge.
Ooh, I forgot. I'm also meeting someone else.
Who?
You know the show Mythbusters?
Yeah. Is it Jamie?
I'm meeting Adam Savage.
Oh, dude, fuck yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. Like I did heard a lot of like videos about like one of them being nice and one of them being mean. I can't remember which one.
I think it's Adam. That's the mean one.
Adam's the nice one. Jamie's the mean one. Jamie is currently in Russia.
Oh.
Why Russia?
He's working on some sort of scientific project.
Probably for the Russian army.
Well, let's see.
Actually, no, it's for the U.S. military.
But why in Russia? You know, we're not really on cahoots with them, right?
Because at the time when the project started, we were.
Ah.
This is like a multi-year project.
Ew.
Yeah. It's something to do with their minerals or their resources or something. That's all I know.
Huh. Yeah, no, like I remember when I was in school, like going in science class.
Watching Mythbusters.
Yeah, watching Mythbusters.
Dude, Mythbusters is the best, man. And knowing their episode on like what's his name? Carlos Hathcock not being able to shoot through a scope, that is false. It was proven like it's true recently actually. Because the scope that they used in the episode was more modern and newer, and compared to the PU scope that was actually used by the Viet Cong snipers.
Out of curiosity, how many people do you know that have a scope that old that you'd be willing to let someone shoot it?
They made millions of them. You can literally buy them cheap as fuck. Like, I'm being dead ass honest with you. If you look up the fat electrician, he was in the video with the guy. I can't remember his name, but watch the video because it's proven like you can actually do it. So.
Oh, the fat electrician! I've seen that.
Yeah, he's funny as fuck. I love
Let's
his
see.
videos.
Let's see. Do you guys want to hear an interesting thing I learned about Mythbusters? Did you guys know that there's a lost episode or lost footage?
Yes.
I feel like you would know that, but yes.
Let's see, I'm also fascinated with like lost footage and all that. Let's see, Zach. I don't know if we're talking about the same one, but I'm just gonna say it. There was an episode they recorded that they would not say anything about it, about what it is and all that. But supposedly they found a way that for a common, like I guess household item or something like that to be turned into a explosive.
Oh yeah.
Easily possible.
Homeland Security was actually the ones that told him, "Hey, you can't say anything about this."
Yeah.
Made
Yeah,
him sign
because-
NDAs.
well,
Made them literally burn the footage.
Yeah.
Yep. Because well, if every American citizen knew how to do that,
Yeah.
Also, Ethan,
yes.
you were talking about the scope in Vietnam, and yeah,
What about
they confirmed it.
who?
Mythbusters.
Yeah. No, the episode they did, they said that it was debunked, like they can't, that it couldn't be replicated.
They did.
No, they didn't.
Yes,
In
they
the
did.
episode,
Episode 75.
they redid the episode because the last time I checked, there was only one episode. They did that.
You're gonna have to rewatch that episode.
Okay.
Using a
'cause-
period accurate scope, 30-06 armor piercing round, Jamie's shot went completely through the sight and penetrated 2 inches into the target dummy, deep enough to be a possibly lethal hit. Because not every shot through the brain actually kills someone.
and plus glass coming into your eye at Mach
Yeah.
Jesus, not fun.
Yeah. But they did confirm it. Episode 75.
Well, they were trying to, the video that I watched, they said
Oh.
they used the wrong scope.
Cool.
So,
Lay down.
Oh. Myths redo. So yeah, they did redo it. They went back to it.
Okay, that's understandable.
Yeah, episode 67 was whenever they tried it the first time. Episode 75 is when they redid it and actually got it on one of the tries.
Yeah, because if they actually use the actual PU optic, then yeah, PU optic was just a very cheaply made Russian sniper optic that was easy to make and easy to mass produce. That's why there's so many of them and they're so cheap now. So, but they suck. So, because well, it's Russian.
Nothing's gonna be good if you make it cheap.
Yep.
Literally anything.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything coming from Temu?
For example, Russian T-34s, dog shit. So many mechanical failures. Just saying. But there's going to be some people that watch this video who go, no, the T-34 was the best made medium tank of World War II. False. Very false. I would have to say the M4 Sherman. That's just me. But anyways.
You racist.
Yeah, no.
Huh?
Don't you know? Didn't you learn from the 40s? You can't side with Germany with anything.
I said M4 Sherman.
Oh, Sherman. I thought you said German. I
No.
honest to God thought you said I'm for
Personally-
German.
Honestly,
Personally-
I thought I was a German.
But personally, I would have to say for the second and third tanks, for my top 3, would have to be either the Panzerkampfwagen 5, which was the Panther, or the Panzerkampfwagen 4, the Panzer 4, because they were well made pieces of equipment and reliable.
So
Compared
just
to the
so we're
heavy tanks.
aware, you're not for Germany.
No, but they had cool shit.
I will say they did have some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, come on, the MG42, what?
I was thinking like BMW, but you know.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah,
Let's
that
see.
too. Yeah.
Let's see. I forget. Wasn't Volkswagen Germany too?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
actually made by the the people that do
No.
all the. Yeah.
No,
nope,
you're thinking of the Volkswagen Beetle. Volkswagen was around
Nope.
before then.
Yes, but they were heavily indoctrinated by the who. Very
Yeah,
heavily
that's why the Beetle was a thing.
I'm just saying. Because you know what Volkswagen stands for, right?
What?
People's car. Actually, that's the translation. And actually, you're wrong. Founded in May 28th of 1937. Guess who was already in power by then?
Who?
Mustache Man. He was already in power.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So, Zach, you're wrong. Proved you wrong. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah. Weird.
Alright, but anyway, shall we move on to the main thing for today?
Yeah.
Alright.
My turn, bitches!
And once again, for the audience, we were doing True Crime Month.
Yep.
So we all decided, to research up to 3, like either killers, unsolved mysteries, anything true crime related.
Yep.
To present.
the only stipulation is any serial killer has to fit within the guidelines of CIA, Homeland Security, FBI, blah blah blah.
Yep.
So they need at least 3 victims.
Oh, never mind. I
Yes.
take that back. Sorry. Whoops.
What? What? Huh?
Huh?
I thought it was 6, not 3. My fault.
I mean, if you do 6, you've already gotten the quota.
Yeah, I mean.
No. Like 6 kills. Like that's 6 victims, man. That's what I'm talking about here. Not
According to CIA, Homeland Security, and FBI, the bare minimum to be a serial killer is at least 3 victims.
Ah, well, shit.
If you do more than that, yeah, you're still within the guidelines.
Oh yeah, the one has a lot. I'm gonna warn you now.
Yeah, no, like,
Imagine it's just Stalin and he's got like 42 million kills.
I know.
Well, he was in a country that Stalin was in at one point.
It's Hitler. He did it on
No.
Hitler.
No,
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not do it on Hitler. I will tell you him after the first one. All right.
Yeah, no, but anyway, no audience. So Zach went first. He talked about killers. I went last week, which I talked about unsolved mysteries, and now we're on to our favorite popcorn head.
Yay!
Even though he's not popcorn anymore. He's Bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I changed my name on Steam and everything, so yeah.
Yeah, why did you anyways?
I don't know. I kind of got tired of the name, so I just changed it. Yeah.
And then there's me who uses the same name for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I have never changed it.
All right.
And then, with that out of the way, Ethan, the floor is now yours.
Okay. So, this one you guys might have probably heard in the past. He is very well compared to as the American Jack the Ripper. Funny enough. His name is Herman Webster Mudgett, or better known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes.
He sounds familiar.
Yeah, Zach already knows.
I think
I didn't know the first 2 names, but as soon as you said H.H. Holmes, I knew exactly who you were talking
he
about.
sounds familiar.
He should be.
Yeah, he did some fucked up shit, I'm not gonna lie. He was a con artist and a serial killer active between 1891 to 1894 time period. And by the time of his execution in 1896, Holmes had engaged in a lengthy, like a very long criminal career that included insurance fraud, forgery, fucking swindling, 3 or 4 bigamous marriages, meaning like, they're falsified, horse theft, which was actually a really big deal during the 1800s, funny enough. And obviously, most commonly, why he's on this list, murder. Funny enough, who would have thought? Oh my god. Known as the Beast of Chicago, or the Devil in the White City, or the Torture Doctor, his most notorious crimes took place in Chicago around the time of the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893.
So this took place in the United States?
Yes.
Huh.
He was actually born May 16th, 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, United States. So if anybody is from Gilmanton, yeah, he's from there. So sorry to tell you that, but hey. Let's see. Holmes was convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel, his accomplice in several of his cons. So God only knows what cons that he was pulling during this time of the World Columbian Exposition, because, well, you got all these foreigners coming to the World Exposition, right, in Chicago, to see all the fine arts and everything, right? So if I was him, I'd be fucking preying on these motherfuckers. They got money. They're coming here and they're rich. You know they're rich. But hey. But however, Holmes also confessed to 27 murders, including those of some people who were verifiably still alive, which is kind of weird, meaning he might have been delusional in the last few moments of his life. And
So
it's
he was
believed that
claiming he killed people whenever they were still living.
yes.
Huh.
Now, it'd be really creepy if those people that he claimed to killed would die after him, but like, suddenly, right after his death, but I could not find any more information on that. It is believed that he also killed the 3 Pitzel children, which were the children of Benjamin Pitzel, as well as 3 mistresses, the child of one mistress and the sister of another. But Holmes was hanged for his crimes in 1896 on May 7th. So much of the lore Holmes has, like lore attached to him, like what made him famous was his home. The so-called Murder Castle, a 3-story building he commissioned on West 63rd Street in Chicago, Illinois. Details about the building, along with many of the alleged crimes, are considered exaggerated or fabricated for like tabloid pieces, basically like to get people's attention to the tabloid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
The
for some
original clickbait.
yeah, basically it was clickbait. They were trying to say that the accounts were estimating his body count could be as high as 133 or even 200, but it was just very over exaggerated. Many of the inaccuracies have persisted due to the combination of ineffective police investigation and hyperbolic yellow journalism of the area, which are often cited as historical records. So these guys could have been just talking out of their ass and be like, oh yeah, this guy killed 200 people. And then it's considered a historical record. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so let's get on to his murders, I guess, Uh, Holmes moved to Chicago in 1886 in August, which is when he began using the name H. H. Holmes. So his persona, I guess you want to say, or even like alternate identity. And soon after his arrival, he came across a drugstore at the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd and Englewood section of Chicago. I know that's a lot of details. The drugstore was owned by a female named Elizabeth Holton, who gave Holmes a job, and he proved to be a hardworking employee, eventually buying the store from her. Oh, excuse me. Let me take a drink of water because my mouth is getting dry.
Yeah, no, a
A
lot of
contrary,
talking.
yeah, I love talking. All right. Contrary to several accounts, Holmes did not kill E.S. Holton, which I'm gonna take a guess that might be Elizabeth Holton's husband, or it could be her. I don't know. I really don't know. I should have probably did more research on her, but sorry about that. Holmes purchased an empty lot across the street where construction began in 1887 for a 2-story mixed-use building with apartments in the second floor and retail spaces, including a new drugstore on the first. When Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, Atena Iron and Steel, they took him to court in 1888. In 1892, he had a third floor, telling investors and suppliers he intended to use it as a hotel during the upcoming World Columbian Exposition. Wow, correlations. Which, if you can't tell, this is the same building that I just mentioned earlier. Just saying. So Holmes built this hotel to lure tourists visiting the exposition in order to kill them and sell their skeletons to nearby medical schools. Although he did have a history of selling stolen cadavers to medical schools, Holmes had acquired these wares through grave robbing rather than murder. Likewise, there is no evidence that Holmes ever murdered exposition goers on the premises, but at the same time, that cannot be proven just due to the fact of, well, 1890s trying to solve or investigating a murder without the technology that we have today would be
500.
pretty hard. Just saying, pretty fucking hard.
Yeah.
Again, the press labeled the building as Holmes' murder castle, claiming the structure contained secret torture chambers, trap doors, gas chambers, and a basement crematorium, and none of these over-exaggerated claims were true. But
So, so there's
what's
a
up?
chance that it's fake. Like
It's possible, but at the same time, you can. So the whole like press was basically saying, "Oh, there's gas chambers, torture chambers, trapdoors, crematorium." You know, it was just over exaggerated to make him look more like a psychopath, essentially. But
But wasn't
fact,
there blueprints found that had doors that lead to nowhere and
I believe
records of
so.
construction workers only working there for like a month at a time?
I believe so. Pretty sure. Uh,
It is the whole theory behind him hiring and firing construction workers on a whim was so
yeah.
that way no one but him knew the exact layout of the house.
Which is it's a possible thing, mind you. You gotta also think that journalism back then was also very over exaggerated, so we can never really tell.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean that they couldn't have found it during their investigation of the property, which is possible. But at the same time, there's really not much information from the 1890s that we can actually look back on.
No.
So, but all right. So it's stated that the hotel was made up of over 100 rooms and laid out like a maze. So that might be where you're getting at, maybe, but it's possible that I might be just, misunderstanding this a little bit wrong. Windowless
Did the
rooms.
house burn down?
Actually, it did.
Okay. I,
Ew.
I was about to say, oh,
Yeah.
well, what if, we could look it
Um,
up? And I was like, wait a minute, didn't it burn down?
it did. Which I'm about to get on to that. Windowless rooms and dead end staircases. So basically a maze, like you said earlier. In reality, the third floor hotel was moderately sized, largely unremarkable and uncompleted due to the home's disputes with the builders, because he was just trying to scam them so he can have a fancy new building without having to pay it like a fucking broke bitch. Just saying.
It is smart, though. You gotta
I
admit.
will say it was smart for the time. You do that now, you're going to jail for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And there's
Absolutely.
hold on. About to fucking snipe a goddamn mosquito with my fucking flip flop. Got him. Alright. Uh It did contain some hidden rooms, but they were used for hiding furniture homes bought on credit and did not intend to pay for. Most likely just for him to sell it himself to make an extra buck. But Holmes did not kill an alleged castle victim, Miss Kate Durkee, who turned out to be very much alive. In his confession, Holmes stated that his usual method of killing was to suffocate his victims using various means, including an overdose of chloroform. Already starting off on a great start. Overexposure to lightning gas fumes, and trapping them in airless vaults. Holmes also
What?
claimed to have
What?
used starvation to have burn victims alive in his castle.
What?
So trapping them in an airless vault.
Okay, what's a lightning gas?
It's lighting gas. My fault.
Oh, light. Oh, my God.
Lightning gas.
Yes, lightning gas.
Well, the thing is that being a welder, you have to know what certain gases do and how they react to metal and oxygen and blah, blah, blah.
Avada Kedavra!
And I've never heard of lightning gas.
Yo, that's not terrifying, no.
But this is what you were just talking about, how it burnt down. Holmes's hotel was gutted by a fire started by an unknown arsonist shortly after his arrest, meaning he probably had a accomplice that was like, "Oh shit, he just got arrested."
Time to
There's
burn
a
down the
lot of evidence
place.
in that. Yep, and I
Get rid
bet
of
you
it.
why they couldn't fucking find a lot of this shit was because it's burnt too crisp. And you gotta think, 1890s firefighting equipment was not to how it is
Yeah.
today.
Let's see, a little off topic. Let's see. Going back to last week, one of the cases I was gonna talk about, it took place I think in like the early 1900s, and
Mhm.
it like involved like a house fire, and like it took them like a couple of hours to get to the house,
Yeah,
when they
because
live so close to the fire department.
they were in a horse and carriage back then for firefighting equipment because they didn't have like trucks and cars in the early 1900s, late 1800s. I mean, it was a thing. Don't get me wrong. Yes, it was a thing, but they were
But
still
their
using
top speed was like 12 miles an hour.
yeah. Compared to like a horse and carriage that has firefighting equipment on a wagon, you know. And even then, they were using buckets to like put out the fire and maybe some like moderate hoses that were available to the time period, but they weren't doing much to fight the fires. Funny enough. But so probably like all the hidden rooms and stuff like that the press has said it could have been true. Don't know. The building burnt down, as I said, by an unknown arsonist who was probably in cahoots with H.H. Holmes. They don't know who it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I was about to say, probably odds are he probably had somebody like cause a fire. That maybe look like
Mhm.
it was an accident.
Yeah. And it goes on to say, but it was largely rebuilt and used as a post office until 1938.
Only imagine like entering the post office and like you would like it was like
Hmm.
history essentially.
Yeah. Like they probably used the brick like outlining, like the walls and shit. But like the actual floors themselves, they were probably burnt to a crisp. Let's be honest here. The whole inside might have been just gutted out. So it's possible that the walls and shit stood standing from the fire, and it was probably very, you know, unharmed by the fire. So they just built the post office in there. It's a possible thing.
You know, I imagine if he wasn't arrested, I can imagine him like going into like
Mm.
the post office and be like, hey, I know that room. That's where my torture done. Never mind.
Well, possible.
Hey, that's where I killed. Oh,
Possible.
wait.
Oh wait, shit. But it says that besides his infamous murder castle, Holmes also owned a one-story factory which he claimed was to be used for glass bending. It is unclear if the factory furnace was ever used for this purpose. It was speculated to have been used to destroy incriminating evidence of Holmes's crimes.
Did you say glass bending?
Yes.
Yeah, I
That
mean, it's literally what it is.
yeah,
It's a
you're
way to
bending
bend
you're
glass.
forming you're forming glass into like cups, fucking vases and all that shit. So, that's what glass bending is. But here are his presumed murders. You ready to hear the victims?
Yes.
Okay. Holmes's mistress, 31-year-old Julia Smythe, was the wife of Dr. Lawrence Connor, who had moved into his building and began working at his pharmacy's jewelry counter. After Connor found out about Smythe's affair with Holmes, he quit his job to move away, leaving Smythe and their 5-year-old daughter, Pearl Connor, behind. Smythe gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. Julia and Pearl both disappeared on Christmas Eve of 1891. Holmes initially claimed that Julia had left unexpectedly to go visit her dying sister, but then changed his story and said that she had fled her former husband. Ultimately, Holmes later claimed that Julia had actually died during an abortion. Despite his medical backgrounds, Holmes was unlikely to be experienced in carrying out abortions, and mortality from such a procedure was high at this time. Holmes then claimed to have poisoned Pearl, likely to hide the circumstance of her mother's death. A partial skeleton, possibly of a child around Pearl's age, was found when excavating Holmes's cellar. Pearl's father was a key witness at Holmes's trial in Chicago as well. So, it's possible that the murder castle could have been used to kill somebody. But as I just said, it's unsure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's not confirmed, but
Yeah,
there's a
but
chance that.
yeah, it's very much possible. And then here I go on to the second one. 23-year-old Emmeline Singrand began working in Holmes's building in May 1892 and worked for him for 6 months. Holmes reportedly hired Sigran as a secretary due to her connection to a doctor who peddled a vaccine that allegedly cured alcoholism.
Where do I
Funny.
get it?
Shut
Yeah,
up,
no,
bro.
he needs it.
It's probably like cocaine or some shit. Those who saw Sigran in the weeks before her disappearance noted that she appeared to have lost interest in Holmes and their relationship. Sigran was also last seen in December of 1892. Her parents were informed that she had left to marry a man named Robert Phelps. Authorities hypothesized that she had gotten pregnant by Holmes, possibly being a victim of another failed abortion that Holmes tried to cover up. Her empty luggage trunk was sent back to her mother in Anderson, Indiana. Her skeleton was found by police at the home of a Chicago physician with the help of M.G. Chappell, who admitted having articulated 3 skeletons for H. H. Holmes. Ooh, fun.
Ooh.
Third one. In early 1893, a 24 hold on.
Just learning how to talk?
24-year-old 24-year-old one-time actress named Wilhelmina Minnie Williams moved to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office, though it is believed that he actually met her in Boston several years earlier, while he was then going by the alias of Harry Gordon. Oh man, this guy doesn't know how to keep the name to one. Like, God, fucking amateur hour here. Holmes offered her a job at the hotel as his personal stenographer, which is it's just like writing, essentially. It's kind of confusing. I'm not going to try to explain it. And she accepted. Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer the deed to her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, which was the alias of Holmes, in April of 1893. Williams transferred the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. Holmes later signed the deed over to Pitzel, giving him the alias Benton T. Lyman, and the following month. Holmes and Williams, presenting themselves as husband and wife, rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park. Minnie's younger sister, so Wilhelmina Williams, younger sister, 18-year-old Anna Nanny Williams, came to visit on the 5th of July, 1893. She wrote to her aunt that she planned to accompany Brother Harry to Europe, and she signed off with the message, Brother Harry, known as Holmes, says you need never trouble any more about me, financially or otherwise. He and his sister will see to me. I hope our hard days are over. Afterwards, neither Minnie nor Nanny were ever seen alive, and Holmes would subsequently use Minnie's name in future scams. Most likely, Minnie and Nanny were probably killed.
Yeah, that's my guess, that they were probably killed.
Yes, I
It's
would.
a loose end.
Yep.
Very loose end. So, suspected murders. So it's possible, but it's not confirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A 6-year-old creditor of Holmes named John de Breuil died of apoplexy on April 17th, 1891, in the castle's drugstore. De Breuil collapsed and died shortly after Holmes poured a black liquid down his throat, according to a witness. Foul play was not suspected. In 1895, it was determined that Dubreuil's life had been insured and that Holmes had profited from his death.
Oh.
I don't know how that would be a suspected
That's
murder. I mean, the
that's
evidence is
weird.
kind of lighting up, like, weird, you know.
Yeah.
In 1891, Emily Van Tassel disappeared after working at Holmes's drugstore. Holmes spoke of her in his confession in 1897. Tassel's name was cited in a list of suspected victims, and Tassel's mother believed she was a possible victim. So they don't know. Dr. Rustler had an office in the castle and went missing in 1892. Holmes mentioned killing Rustler in his confession. Kitty Kelly, a stenographer for Holmes, also went missing in 1892. John Davis of Greenville, Pennsylvania, went to visit the 1893 World's Fair and vanished. In 1920, he was declared legally dead. it took them close to fucking 27 years before they finally declared him dead. That is wild. Harry Walker of Greensburg, Indiana, went missing in November of 1893 and was allegedly to have insured his life to Holmes for 20 grand and wrote to friends that he was working for Holmes in Chicago. Another possible victim. No clue where they went. Holmes and Pitzel took George Thomas out to a Mississippi swamp on the Tombigbee River in June 1894, killed him, and disposed of the body. Holmes confessed to the murder to his second wife. Milford Cole of Baltimore disappeared after receiving a telegram from Holmes to come to Chicago in July of 1894. An additional possible victim was Lucy Burbank. Her bank book was found with human hair in a chimney flue at the castle in 1895. Holmes is allegedly to have killed 2 persons in Lake County, Illinois in the 1890s. Their deaths were confirmed years later when the remains of an unknown man and woman were found in 1919, 23 years after his execution. Interesting, correct?
Yeah.
Like, definitely, like, Henry Walker, that's most definitely confirmed, because, like, why would you give and insure your life to Holmes? So he definitely killed you because he wanted the money. Let's just be honest.
10,000%.
And then the whole John Davis of Greenville, Pennsylvania, just vanishing and not being declared dead until 27 years later baffles me. Like, absolutely baffles me. And then obviously the 68-year-old creditor Holmes named John D. Brill definitely was killed by him. I mean, they had a witness who fucking did it. Well, watched him do it, so. But they couldn't, point to foul play, which is weird. But let's get on to the more common things he's known for, the Pitzel killings. While working in the Chemical Bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with 38-year-old Benjamin Freelon Pitzel, a carpenter with a criminal past who was exhibiting in the same building a coal bin he invented. Holmes used Pitzel as his right-hand man for several criminal schemes. A district attorney later described Pitzel as Holmes's tool, his creature, which is weird. With insurance companies pressing to prosecute him for arson, Holmes left Chicago in July of 1894. He reappeared in Fort Worth, where he had inherited property from the Williams sisters at the intersection of a modern-day Commerce Street and 2nd Street. Here he once again attempted to build an incomplete structure without paying his suppliers and contractors again. Oh my god, this guy's a fucking piece of shit. As I was saying. In July of 1894, Holmes was arrested and briefly jailed for the first time on the charge of selling mortgaged goods. God damn, I can't speak English. Mortgaged. I'm gonna blow my brain. Selling shit that wasn't his, basically, in St. Louis, Missouri. Does that help you guys understand that? Without
Yeah.
me struggling with my English over here, like
Actually, can you say that again?
I'm gonna beat your ass.
You made fun of me for having trouble saying
Okay,
things.
well, that you were
I'm just
having
saying.
trouble with saying people's names. I'm having trouble with saying fuck. Words. Bullshit.
Just saying.
I'm gonna beat your ass too. He was promptly bailed out, but while in jail, he struck up a conversation with a convicted outlaw named Marion Hedgepeth, who was serving a 25-year sentence. Holmes had concocted a plan to swindle an insurance company out of 10 grand by taking out a policy on himself and then faking his death. Holmes promised Hedgepeth a $500 commission in exchange for the name of a lawyer who could be trusted. Holmes was directed to a young St. Louis attorney named Jephthah Howe. Howe thought Holmes' scheme was brilliant and agreed to play a part. Nevertheless, Holmes planned to fake his own death failed when the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. Holmes did not press the claim. Instead, he concocted a similar plan with Pitzel. Pitzel agreed to fake his own death so that his wife could collect on a $10,000 life insurance policy, which he was to split with Holmes and Howe. The scheme, which was to take place in Philadelphia, called for Pitzel to set himself up as an inventor under the name B.F. Perry, and then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion. Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Pitzel. Instead, Holmes killed Pitzel on September 4th, 1894 by knocking him unconscious with chloroform and setting his body on fire with the use of benzene.
Jeez.
His confession, Holmes implied Pitzel was still alive after he used the chloroform on him before he set him on fire. However, forensic evidence presented at Holmes' later trial showed chloroform had been administered after Pitzel's death, a fact of which the insurance company was unaware, presumably to stage a suicide to exonerate Holmes should he be charged with murder. Basically, this man just dumped benzene on this man and killed him while he was knocked the fuck out. Cool. What a piece of shit. Holmes collected the insurance payout on the basis of the genuine Pitzel corpse. Holmes then went on to manipulate Pitzel's unsuspecting wife, Carrie Alice Canning, into allowing 3 of her 5 children to be placed in his custody. Lord have mercy. The 3 children who were placed under Holmes' care were 13-year-old Alice Pitzel, 9-year-old Nellie Pitzel, and 7-year-old Howard Robert Pitzel. Holmes and the 3 Pitzel children traveled throughout the northeastern United States and into Canada. He simultaneously escorted Carrie along a parallel route, all the while using various aliases and lying to Carrie concerning her husband's death by claiming Pitzel was hiding in London, as well as lying to her about the true whereabouts of her 3 missing children in Detroit just before entering Canada. They were only separated by a few blocks.
Oh.
In an even more audacious move, Holmes was staying at another location with his current wife, who was unaware of the whole affair. Holmes later confessed to murdering Alice and Nellie on 25th of October 1894 by forcing them into a large trunk and locking them inside. He drilled a hole into the lid of the trunk and put one end of a hose through the hole, attaching the other end to a gas line to asphyxiate. Thank you, the girls. Holmes buried their nude bodies in the cellar of his rental house on 16th Street, Vincent Street of Vincent Street in Toronto. Frank Geyer was a Philadelphia Police Department detective assigned to investigate Holmes and find the 3 missing children. Geyer began in June of 1894 to trace Holmes' steps and found the decomposed bodies of the 2 Pitzel girls in the cellar of the Toronto home. The detective wrote, "The deeper we dug, the more horrible the odor became. When we reached the depth of 3 feet, we discovered what appeared to be the bone of a forearm of a human being." In Toronto, Geyer discovered unsent letters written by the Pitzel children that Holmes had kept. This information led to further investigations of Holmes' Chicago property and ultimately led Gallagher to Indianapolis, where Holmes had rented a home in the Irvington neighborhood. Holmes was reported to have visited a local pharmacy to purchase drugs which he had used to kill Howard Pitzel on October 10th of 1894, and a repair shop sharpened the knives he used to chop up the body before he burned it. The boy's teeth and bones were discovered in the home's chimney. Already a piece of shit for that.
Wow.
So let's talk about his capture and his ultimate execution. So Holmes's murder spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston on November 17th of 1894 after being tracked there from Philadelphia by the private Pinkerton National Detective Agency. Care to say anything, Zach? Because I know you know who these people are.
They're the bad guys from Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
They're also the same people that Hasbro hired to track down some YouTuber after they accidentally sent him the wrong cards for a game that wasn't supposed to be released yet or something.
Huh.
They're mercenaries is what they are.
Yeah. Essentially, they're basically mercenaries with a bad
Oh, no.
head.
They're a private army. They are mercenaries. They are guns for hire.
Fair enough. But as I was saying, he was held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas because the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the country in the company of his unsuspecting third wife. How many wives did this man have? Holy shit. In July of 1895, following the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies, Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes's building in Englewood, now locally referred to as the Castle. Though many sensational claims were made, no evidence was found which could have convicted Holmes in Chicago, as there was only very circumstantial physical evidence of the castle's victims. A piece of human bone, possibly from Julia Connor, remains of a child, possibly Pearl Connor, a burned gold watch chain, and burned dress buttons apparently belonged to Minnie Williams, and a tuft of human female hair found in the chimney flue. Thus, Holmes would be tried for the murder of Pitzel in Philadelphia, which he had the clearest case for murder. In October of 1895, Holmes was put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel and was found guilty and sentenced to death. By then, it was evident Holmes had also murdered 3 Pitzel children. Following his conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders in Chicago, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Toronto, and 6 attempted murders. Holmes, however, was paid $7,500 by the Hearst papers in exchange for his confession. While writing his confession in prison, Holmes mentioned how drastically his facial appearance had changed since his imprisonment. And then on May 7, 1896, Holmes was hanged at Mensing Prison for the murder of Pitzel. Until the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and immutable, showing a very few signs of fear, anxiety, or depression. Despite this, he asked for his coffin to be contained in concrete and buried 10 feet deep because he was concerned grave robbers would steal his body and use it for dissection, which is weird. Holmes' neck
No,
did
that's
not.
that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
Holmes' neck did not break. He instead strangled to death slowly, twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead. Upon his execution, Holmes's body was interred in an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery, a Catholic cemetery in Philadelphia, western suburb of Yeadon, Pennsylvania. On New Year's Eve, 1909, Hecpeth, who had been pardoned for informing on Holmes, was shot and killed by police officer Edward J. Brooke during a holdup at a Chicago bar. And on March 7th, 1914, the Chicago Tribune reported that with the death of Patrick Quinlan, the former caretaker of the castle, the mysteries of the Holmes Castle would remain unexplained. Quinlan had committed suicide by taking strychnine. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Strike 9.
Strychnine, my bad. His body was found in his bedroom with a note that read, "I couldn't sleep." Quinlan's surviving relatives claimed he had been haunted for several months and was suffering from hallucinations. The castle itself was damaged by a fire in August of 1895. 2 men were seen entering the back of the building at 9 p.m. About half an hour later, they were seen exiting the building and rapidly running away. Following several explosions, the castle went up in flames. Afterwards, investigators found a half-empty gas can underneath the back steps of the building. The building survived the fire and remained in use until it was torn down in 1938. The site is currently occupied by the Englewood branch of the United States Postal Service. In 2017, during the allegations, Holmes had escaped execution. Holmes' body was exhumed for testing by Janae Monge of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. Due to his coffin being contained in concrete, his body was found to not have decomposed normally. His clothes were almost perfectly preserved, and his mustache was found to be intact. The body was
That's
positively
horrifying.
identified by his teeth as being that of Holmes. He was then reburied. Ah,
So what, were they
so
worried that they buried the wrong body?
they thought he might have escaped being hanged. But yeah, so
Huh.
they exhumed his body in 2017 just to find out that he's it's him. And his whatever he was wearing when he was murdered was, perfectly good in condition and everything. So, yeah, kind of creepy because the concrete basically, you know, contained that together and kept his body basically preserved for over hundreds of years, practically.
You gotta think, depends on the concrete makeup. It could be airtight.
Yeah, like either way, like yeah, like this guy, with like the time period and like evidence being like not very clear. It's possible like the probable victims are a possibility, but it's not like confirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like some people give him the nickname the American Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I can see
So,
it.
yeah, I mean Jesus, like, but yeah. So H. Holmes, what do you guys think? Piece of shit or what?
Yeah.
Is
right.
that even
Honestly,
a question?
What?
That he's a piece of shit. Is that even a question?
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. All right.
Let's be honest here.
yeah,
I'm
let
gonna
our
keep it,
gentle.
I'm gonna keep it on a time period. So that was the 1890s. Now we're transitioning over to the early 1900s to a man named Fritz Harman, or his full name, Friedrich Heinrich Karl Fritz Harman, born October 25th of 1879, died April 15th of 1925, was a German serial rapist
Oh
and serial
Jesus.
killer known as the Butcher of Hanover, the Vampire of Hanover, and the Wolfman, who committed the sexual assault, murder, and mutilation and dismemberment of at least 24 young men and boys in the city of Hanover between 1918 and 1924. Found guilty of 24 of the 27 murders for which he was tried, Harmon was sentenced to death by beheading in December of 1924. He was subsequently executed by guillotine in April of 1925. Oh, you guys ready?
Oh boy.
Just out of
Okay.
curiosity,
Yes.
does this involve drinking in any way?
I don't know.
Because if it does, I know exactly who this person is.
I did a brief read through, so I'm not 100% sure. So we're gonna find out together. Oh my god! Sorry, but all right, let's start it off. So Friedrich Heinrich Karl Harman, Fritz nickname, was born in Hanover, Germany, 1879. Okay, so Fritz Harm, he was the sixth and youngest child born to Johanna or Claudius and Ollie Harman. Harman was a quiet child with few friends his own age or gender and who seldom socialized with any children outside of school with the exception of his siblings. From an early age, Harman's behavior was noticeably effeminate or male femininity, essentially, and he was known to shun boys' activities instead of playing with his sister's dolls and dressing in their clothes. He also developed a passion for both needlework and cookery, and would develop a close relationship with his mother, who spoiled her youngest child. Reportedly, Harmon's father married his mother when she was 41 years old, and 7 years his. Wait, hold on. Harmon's father married his mother when she was 41 years old and 7 years in his senior, largely due to her wealth and substantially dowry their marriage would eventually bring him. Dowry, what is that? Oh, payment. So basically, like when she died, he got money, basically, right? Uh, Harmon
Sounds
Sr.
fitting.
Yeah, Harmon Sr. was known to be argumentative and short-tempered and conducted several affairs throughout his marriage. Via his infidelity, he contracted syphilis in his later years. Oh boy. Uh, Despite his father being an authoritarian who had little time for his children and a notorious womanizer, Harmon's parents remained together until his mother's death in April of 1901. In 1886, Harmon began began his schooling, he was noted by teachers to be spoiled and mollycoddled child who is prone to daydreaming. Basically, lazy,
Me
essentially.
too, dude.
Huh?
I said me too, dude.
Although his behavior at school was noted to be exemplary, his academic performance was below average, and Harmon had to repeat a school year twice. Oh my god, what a
Oof.
retard.
Oh my god.
On one occasion, he was about 8 years old. Harmon was molested by one of his teachers, although he never discussed this incident in detail.
Huh.
Harmon grew into a trim, physically strong youth. With his parents' consent, he finished his schooling in 1894. Upon leaving school, he would briefly obtain employment as a apprentice locksmith in Neuf Neuf-Brisach, which is now part of France. It used to be German. Before opting at age 15 to enroll in a military academy in the town of Brisach. Brisach. His military training began on 4th of April 1895. Adolescence and first offenses. Harmon initially adapted to military life and performed well as a trainee soldier. However, after 5 months of military service, he began to suffer periodic lapse of consci- oh god
Consciousness?
yes, thank you. Which, although initially described by a medical professional as being sudden signs of anxiety neurosis, were subsequently diagnosed as being equivalent to epilepsy. In October of 1895, the following month, Harmon discharged himself from the military and returned to Hanover, where he briefly worked in a cigar factory his father had established in 1888. At age 16, Harmon committed his first sexual offense, all of which involved young boys whom he would lure to secluded areas, typically cellars, before proceeding to sexually abuse them. He was first arrested for committing offenses of this nature in July of 1896, which, following further offenses, the Division for Criminal Matters opted to place Harmon in a mental institution in the city of Hildesheim in February of 1897. Although briefly transferred to a Hanover hospital for psychiatric evaluation, he would be certified as being incurably deranged and unfit to stand trial by a psychologist named Gert Schmalufs. He ordered Harmon to be confined at a mental institution indefinitely. He was returned to the institution on the 28th of May, 1897. 7 months later, in January of 1898, Harmon escaped the mental institution with the apparent assistance from his mother. He fled to Zurich in Switzerland. Here he lived with a relative of his mother and obtained employment as a handyman in a shipyard. Harmon remained in Zurich for 16 months before he returned to Hanover in 1899, April. Early the following year, he seduced and subsequently became engaged to a woman named Erna Lovert, who soon became pregnant with his child in October of 1900. Harmon received notification to perform his compulsory military service, so he had to do it, which he started October 12th of 1900. Harmon was deployed to the Alsatian city of Colmar to serve in the 10th Rifle Battalion. Throughout his service, he earned a reputation among his superiors as an exemplary soldier and excellent marksman. He would later describe this period of his service as being the happiest of his entire life. After collapsing while on exercise with his battalion in October 1901, Harmon began to suffer dizzy spells and subsequently hospitalized for over 4 months. He was later deemed unsuitable for military service and was discharged on 28th of July 1902. Discharged from the military under medical terms described as being probable dementia praecox. Harmon was awarded a monthly pension of 21 gold marks. He returned to live with Erna in Hanover, briefly working again in his father's cigar factory. However, he soon filed a maintenance lawsuit against his father, stating that he was unable to work due to the ailments noted by the military. Harmon's father successfully contested the suit, and charges were dropped. The following year, a violent fight between father and son resulted in Harmon's father himself unsuccessfully initiating legal proceedings against his son, citing verbal death threats and blackmailing as justification to have his son returned to a mental institution. These charges were dropped due to the lack of corroborating evidence. Nonetheless, Harmon was ordered to undertake a psychiatric exam in May of 1903. This examination was conducted by a Dr. Andre, who concluded that although morally inferior, Harmon was not mentally unstable. Which is stupid. He definitely was. With financial assistance from his father, Harmon and his fiancee opened a fishmongery. Basically, they sell raw fish. So it's just like a fish market they opened. Harmon himself briefly attempted to work as an insurance salesman before officially classified as disabled and unable to work by the 10th Army in 1904, which was probably the unit he was in during that time period. As a result, his monthly pension was slightly increased. The same year, his fiancée, while pregnant with his child, terminated their engagement after he accused her of having an affair with a student. As the fishmongery was registered in her name, Erna simply ordered her fiancé to leave the premises. Okay. You ready for his criminal career? Guys?
Let's hear it.
Hello? It's pretty long. I'm not gonna lie. It's really fucking long.
That's what she said.
I'm gonna shove my foot so far up your fucking ass for saying that shit. Alright. For the next decade, Harmon primarily lived as a petty thief, burglar, and con artist. Man, you know, these really fucked up individuals have something in common. Petty thief, burglar, and con artist. Weird. Am I right, Aaron?
Yeah, that's weird.
Although he did occasionally obtain legitimate employment, he invariably stole from his employers or their customers. Beginning in 1905, he served several short prison sentences for offenses such as larceny, embezzlement, and assault. On one occasion, when working legitimately as an invoice clerk, Harmon became acquainted with a female employee with whom he later claimed to have robbed several tombstones and graves between 1905 and 1913. He was never charged with these offenses. Consequently, Harmon spent the majority of his years between 1905 and 1912 in jail. In 1913, Harmon was arrested for burglary. A search of his home revealed a hoard of stolen property linking him to several other burglaries. Despite protesting his innocence, Harmon was charged with and convicted of God. All right.
You new
Charged
to
with
this.
and convicted of a
Don't worry, Ethan,
series
it's
of
okay.
burglaries and frauds. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for these offenses. Due to his compulsory conscription resulting from the outbreak of World War I, Germany saw a shortage of available domestic manpower in the final years of his prison sentence. Harmon was permitted to work throughout the day in the grounds of various manor houses near the town of Rendsburg, with instructions to return to prison each evening. Upon his release from prison in April of 1918, he initially moved to Berlin before opting to return to Hanover, which he briefly lived with one of his sisters before renting a single-room apartment in late August of 1918. According to Harmon, he was struck by the poverty of the German nation as a result of the loss of the nation had suffered in World War I. Through his initial efforts to both trade and purchase stolen property of Hanover Central Station, Harmon established several criminal contacts with whom he could trade in contraband property. He immediately reverted to the criminal life he had lived before his 1913 arrest. He was also an informant. Despite police knowledge that Harmon was both a known criminal and a known homosexual, he gradually began to establish a relationship with law enforcement as an informer. Fuck, I'm gonna blow my brains
No,
out.
wait, Ethan, it's okay.
Hopefully that doesn't get fucking, strike for that.
Why didn't you just get like completely fluent in German before you did this video?
I know,
I'm
right?
not speaking German. The fuck, I'm speaking English, you motherfucker.
Yeah, but the accent is making it sound German, especially with how much you're mispronouncing words.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, okay?
Hey, you
I'm
told
gonna
me to
beat
be
your ass.
fluent in Italian.
Yeah, I do
get better.
remember that.
Get better. All right. Largely as a means of redirecting the attention of the police from himself and his own criminal activities and to facilitate his access to young males. Okay, fucking piece of shit. By 1919, Harmon is known to have regularly patrolled Hanover Station and to have provided police with information relating to the city's extensive criminal network with the cooperation of several police officials. Harmon devised a ruse whereby he would offer to fence or store stolen property at his premises, then pass this information to police, who then raided his property at agreed times and arrested those contacts. To remove any suspicion of his treachery reaching the criminal fraternity, Harmon himself would be arrested in these raids. Moreover, on numerous occasions, he is known to have performed citizens' arrests upon commuters for offenses such as traveling on forged documents. As a result of these activities, police began to rely on Harmon as a reliable source of information regarding various criminal activities in Hanover and was allowed to patrol the station largely at will. Already, that's bad. No, terrible idea. But hey, what do I know? Oh man,
Not enough.
yeah, apparently not. Known and alleged murderers. Oh, here comes the good part. Between 1918 and 1924, Harmon committed at least 24 murders, as I said in probably the beginning of his good old biography of this stupid piece of shit man who definitely deserved to get decapitated, personally. Although he is suspected of murdering a minimum of 27, all of his victims were males between the ages of 10 and 22, the majority of whom were in their mid to late teens. The victims were lured back to one of the three addresses in which Harmon is known to have resided throughout those years. He is known to have killed upon the promise of assistance, accommodation, work, or under the pretense of arrest. At Harmon's apartment, the victim was typically given food and drink before Harmon bit into his Adam's apple, often as he was strangled.
Oh.
Often, this caused the victim to die of asphyxiation, but on several occasions, Harmon bit completely through the victim's Adam's apple and trachea.
Oh my
Harmon
god.
referred to the act of biting through a victim's neck as his love bite. This man quite literally just bit into people's Adam's apple and just tore it out and watched them die.
That is.
Holy
Oh my
fuck.
god. That's
That is
brutal.
sickening.
All of Harmon's known victims were dismembered before their bodies were discarded, usually in the Lean River, although the dismembered body of his first known victim had simply been buried, and the body of his last victim had been thrown into a lake located at the entrance to the Herrenhausen Gardens. Harmon typically kept his victims' personal possessions for himself for his lover, Hans Grans. Alternatively, they would be sold on the black market through criminal contacts he and Grans had established at Hanover Central Station. However, the personal possessions of some victims were sold to legitimate retailers. Excuse me.
Oh.
Yeah, hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna drink some water. I gotta stay hydrated out here, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
However, the possession, in several instances, both Harmon and Grans gave possessions belongs to various victims acquaintance to acquaintance as gifts. Following Harmon's arrest, rumors circulated that Harmon ate the flesh of his victims or sold it on the black market as pork or horse meat. Mind you, the time he was probably doing this, Germany was already in a poverty and a Great Depression from World War One.
Oh, they
Meaning
were probably
people,
buying it up then.
yeah. Although no evidence was ever produced to confirm these theories, Harmon was known to be an active trader in contraband meat, which was invariably boneless, diced, and often sold as ground meat. When asked where he obtained the meat, Harmon sometimes said he obtained the produce from a butcher named Carl, although investigators would later note that the stories Harmon told his acquaintances regarding the origins of this individual. So, possible human meat he used. But we shall go on to his first victim, first known victim. I should say. Harmon's first known victim was a 17-year-old runaway named Friedel Rolf. When Rolf disappeared on 25th September 1918, his friends told police he was last seen with Harmon, who at the time resided in a single-room apartment at 27 Sellerstrasse. Under pressure from Ross' family, police raided Harmon's apartment in October 1918, where they found him in the company of a semi-naked 13-year-old boy. He was charged with both the sexual assault and battery of a minor and sentenced to 9 months imprisonment. Harmon later said to detectives that when they searched his apartment, the head of Friedel Roth was stowed behind his stove wrapped in newspaper. What the fuck? Harmon avoided serving his sentence throughout 1919. That October, he met an 18-year-old youth named Hans Grans, who had run away from his home in Berlin. Following an argument with his father on the 1st of October, Grans had slept rough in and around Hanover Station, the approximately 2 weeks selling old clothes in and around the station to earn enough money to simply eat before he encountered Harmon, which they apparently had a relationship with with Harmon. In his subsequent confession to police, Grant stated that although his sexual orientation was heterosexual, he himself initiated contact with Harmon with the intention of prostituting himself. Having heard of Harmon's homosexuality through acquaintances he had established in Hanover, Harmon himself stated his arrest that he viewed Grans as being like a son to him, adding that he pulled him out of the ditch and tried to make sure he didn't go to the dogs. Shortly after their acquaintance, Harmon invited the youth to move into his apartment, and Grans became Harmon's lover and criminal accomplice. According to Harmon, although he was smitten with Grans, he gradually became aware the youth manipulated and occasionally mocked him. A few times, Grans was evicted after heated arguments, only for Harmon to plead with him to come back. Despite the manipulation Harmon endured at the hands of his accomplice, he later claimed to tolerate the capitulation as he craved Grans' companionship and affection, adding, "I had to have someone I meant everything to." Harmon served the 9-month prison sentence imposed in 1918 for sexual assault and battery between March and December 1920. Upon his release, he again regained the trust of the police and again became an informer. Harmon initially resided in a hotel before he and Grans lodged with a middle-class family. Through criminal contacts, Harmon became aware of a vacant ground floor apartment located at 8 Neue Strasse. The apartment was located in densely populated old house located along the side of the Lean River. Harmon secured a letting agreement with the landlady, ostensibly to use the property for storage purposes. He and Grans moved in 8 Neue Strasse on the 1st of July of 1921. Now we get on to his murders. Ooh.
This shit probably had Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Huh?
The
Kid
Hans
or-
kid.
Yeah, well, kinda. I mean, kinda seemed like the kid was like manipulating him at the same time too. Either way, both fucked up. Harmon's subsequent victims largely consisted of young male commuters, runaways, and occasionally male prostitutes, whom he would typically encounter in or around Hanover Central Railway Station. The second murder Harmon is known to have committed on the 12th of February 1923. The victim was a 17-year-old pianist named Fritz Franke, whom Harmon encountered at Hanover Central Station and invited to his Neustrasse residence, where he introduced the youth to Hans Grans and 2 female acquaintances, one of whom was Grans' female lover. According to Grans' lover that evening, Grans whispered in her ear, "Hey, he's going to be trampled on today." The following day, both these acquaintances returned to Harmon's apartment, where they were informed by Harmon that Franke had traveled to Hamburg. Speculations remain as to Grans' knowledge of Harmon's intentions towards Franke. when he made his comment to the two female acquaintances. According to Harmon, following his murder, Kranz arrived unannounced at his apartment where he observed Frank's nude body lying upon Harmon's bed. Kranz had then simply looked out and asked, "When shall I come back again?" Yikes. 5 weeks after the murder of Frank, on the 20th March, Harmon encountered a 17-year-old commuter named Wilhelm Schulz at Hanover Station. Schulz had been traveling to work when he encountered Harmon. No human remains identified as belonging to Schulz were ever found, although most of his clothing was in the possession of Harmon's landlady, Elizabeth Engel. At the time of his arrest, two more victims are known to have been murdered at 8 Neue Strasse before Harmon vacated the apartment in June. 16-year-old Roland Hook, who disappeared 23rd May after informing a close friend he intended to run away from home and join the Marines. And 19-year-old Hans Sonnefeld, who disappeared about 31st May, whose distinctive yellow overcoat Harmon is known to have worn after the youth's murder. On the 9th of June 1923, Harmon moved into a single-room attic apartment at 2 Rai. 2 weeks after moving into his address, 25th of June, Ernest Ehrenberg, the 13-year-old son of Harmon's neighbor, disappeared while running an errand for his father. His skull cap and braces would be found in Harmon's apartment following his arrest. 2 months later, on the 24th of August, an 18-year-old office clerk named Heinrich Strauss was reported missing by his aunt, with whom he lived. Many of Strauss's belongings would also be found in Hartman's apartment. Strauss's murder would be followed 1 month later by the murder of a 17-year-old named Paul Broniszkowicz. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Who disappeared en route to the city of Bochum, having worked with his uncle in Saxony-Anhalt throughout the summer. Subsequently, police inquiries suggested Broniszkowicz, I'm just going to call him Paul from now on, had likely alighted the train at Hanover, where he evidently encountered Harmon. Paul's jacket, knapsack, trousers, and towel would all be found in the possession of Harmon following his arrest. Holy shit. Harmon is next to known to have killed on or about 30th September 1923 the victim of 17-year-old Richard Graff, who last informed his family he had met an individual at Hanover Station who knows of a good job for me. 2 weeks later, on the 12th of October, a 16-year-old Gordon youth named Wilhelm Erdner failed to return home from work. Subsequently, inquiries by Erdner's parents revealed the youth became acquainted with a detective Fritz Honerbrock, a alias that was used by Harmon shortly before his disappearance. Both Harmon and Grahn subsequently sold Erdner's bicycle on the 20th of October. Within a week, having sold his bike, Harmon killed two further victims, 15-year-old Herman Wolf, who disappeared from Hanover Station on the 24th of October, and 13-year-old Heinz Brickman, who was seen by a witness standing in the entrance of Hanover Station 11 p.m. on 27 October, having missed his train home to the town of Clausthal. On the 10th of November 1923, 17-year-old apprentice carpenter from the Dusseldorf name Adolf Hannapel disappeared from Hanover Station. He was seen by several witnesses sitting upon a trunk in the waiting room. These witnesses also positively identified Hans Grans in the company of Harmon, pointing towards the youth, who shortly thereafter was observed walking towards a cafe in the company of these two men. 1 month later, 6th December, 19-year-old Adolf Heines disappeared. He had been seeking employment at the time of his disappearance. None of the human remains recovered were identified as belonging to Heines, whom Harmon is physically admitted to dismembering but denied killing. In subsequent court testimonies, which were then disputed by Grons. Harmon claimed he returned home to find Heaney's body missing his signature love bite, laying naked on his bed, with Grons and another criminal acquaintance named Hugo Witkowski stating the youth was one of yours. Neither Harmon nor Grons were convicted of Heaney's murder due to the conflicting testimony. You ready for 1924?
No, but let's go.
Okay, the first victim killed by Harmon in 1924, 17-year-old Ernst Speaker, who disappeared on 5th of January, although subsequently trial testimony from a friend of Speaker indicated Harmon had become acquainted with this youth before his murder. Harmon stated he would simply have to assume this youth was one of his victims due to all the personal possessions he being found in his or Grons' possession following his arrest. 10 days later, Harmon killed a 20-year-old named Heinrich Koch, whom he is also believed to have acquainted with prior to the youth's murder. The following month, Harmon is known to have killed 2 further victims, 19-year-old Willie Singer, who disappeared from the suburb of Linden Lemmer on 2nd of February, having informed his sister he was to travel with a friend, and 16-year-old Herman Speakert, who was last by his sister 8th of February. Harmon is not known to have killed again until or about 1st of April, when he is believed to have killed an acquaintance named Herman Bach. Although cleared of this murder at his trial, Harmon was in possession of Bach's clothing, and when arrested, he is known to have given the used suitcase to his landlady. Moreover, Harmon is known to have actively dissuaded several of Bach's acquaintances from reporting the youth missing. 1 week later, on 8th of April, 16-year-old Alfred Hogrefe disappeared from Hanover Station, having run away from home in the town of Lehrte. On 2nd of April, Hogref's murder would be followed 9 days later by that of 16-year-old apprentice named Wilhelm Apel, whom Harmon encountered on his patrols of Hanover Nienhausen Station. Oh boy. On 26th of April, 18-year-old Robert Witzel disappeared after borrowing 50 pfennings from his mother, which is a coin, essentially. Explaining he intended to visit a traveling circus. Inquiries by the youth's parents, he revealed their son had accompanied an official from the railway station to the circus. Harmon himself would later state he killed Witzel the same evening, and having dismembered the youth's body, had thrown the remains into the Lean River. 2 weeks after that murder of Witzel, Harmon killed a 14-year-old named Heinz Martin, who was last seen by his mother on the 9th of May, and who is believed to have been abducted from Hanover Station. All his clothes were later found in Harmon's apartment. Less than 3 weeks later, on 26 May, 17-year-old traveling salesman from the town of Kassel named Fritz Wittig, whom Harmon would later state he killed upon the insistence of Grans, as he worn a good new suit, Grans coveted, was dismembered and discarded into the Lean River. The same day Wittig is believed to have been killed, Harmon killed his youngest known victim, 10-year-old Friedrich Abeling, who disappeared while trot from school. His murder would be followed less than 2 weeks later that of a 16-year-old Friedrich Koch, who was approached by Harmon on the 5th of June as he walked to college. The 2 acquaintances of Koch would later testify at Harmon's trial that as they walked with Koch to college, Harmon approached Koch, tapped the youth on the boot with his walking stick, and stated, "Well, boy, you recognize me?" God, this guy is something.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Harmon killed his final victim, 17-year-old Eric de Vries, on 14th June 1924. De Vries encountered Harmon at Hanover Station. His dismembered body would later be found in the lake located near the entrance to the Herrenhausen Gardens. Harmon would confess it had taken him 4 separate trips to carry de Vries' dismembered remains, carried it in the leather bag which had belonged to Friedrich Koch. to the location where he had disposed of them. God damn, it makes you wonder what he also did to them before he killed them.
I don't want to imagine it.
I don't either, because I mean he has a history of sexual assault towards young boys. Like this dude is
And
clearly homosexual.
here I thought we were done hearing about children abuse.
Yeah, no. The other one's gonna be it'll make you sick. I'm not gonna lie.
God.
So the discovery on the 17th of May, 1924, two children playing near the Lean River discovered a human skull to be determined that of a young male aged between 18 and 20, bearing evidence of knife wounds. Police were skeptical as to whether a murder had been committed or whether the skull had either been discarded in this location by grave robbers or placed there in a tasteless prank by medical students. Furthermore, police theorized the skull may have been discarded in the river at Alfield, which had recently experienced an outbreak of typhoid. 2 weeks later, on 29th May, a second skull was found at a mill race located close to the scene of the earlier discovery. The skull also identified as having been that of a young male aged between 18 and 20. Shortly thereafter, two boys playing in a field close to the village of Durham discovered a sack containing numerous human bones. Two more skulls would be found on 13th of June, one upon the banks of the Lean River and another located close to a mill in West Hanover. Each of the skulls had been removed from the vertebrae with a sharp instrument. One skull belonged to a male in his late teens, whereas the other belonged to a boy estimated to have been to have been aged between 11 and 13 years old. In addition, one of these skulls also bore evidence of having been scalped. Christ almighty.
Oh,
For more than a year prior to these discoveries, rumors had circulated in Hanover about the fate of the sheer number of children and teenagers who had been reported missing in the city. The discoveries sparked fresh rumors regarding missing and murdered children. What is going on? Where is that wind coming from? Sorry. Alright, my fault. In addition, various newspapers responded to these discoveries and resulting rumors by harking to the disproportionate number of young people who have been reported missing in Hanover between 1918 and 1924. On the 8th of June, several hundred Hanover residents converged close to the Lean River and searched both the banks of the river and the surrounding areas, discovering a number of human bones, which were handed to the police. In response to these latest discoveries, police decided to drag the entire section of the river, which ran through the center of the city. In doing so, they discovered more than 500 further human bones and sections of bodies, many bearing knife like marks on their fucking body, which were later confirmed by a court doctor as having belonged to at least 22 separate human individuals. Approximately half of the remains had been in the river for some time, whereas other bones and body parts have been discarded in the river more recently. Many of the recent and aged discoveries bore evidence of having been dissected, particularly at the joints. Over 30% of the remains were judged to have belonged to young males aged between 15 and 20. Suspicion for the discoveries quickly fell upon Herman, who was known to both the police and criminal investigations department as a homosexual who had amassed 15 previous convictions dating from 1896 for various offenses including child molestation, the sexual assault and battery of a minor. Moreover, he had been connected to the 1918 disappearance of Frieda Roth and a 14-year-old named Herman Kalk, who had disappeared weeks prior to Roth. Harmon was placed under surveillance. Being a trusted police informant, Harmon was known to frequent Hanover Central Station, as he was well known to many officers from Hanover. Two young policemen were drafted from Berlin to pose as undercover officers and discreetly observe his movements. The surveillance of Harmon began on 18th of June, 1924. You ready for his arrest or what?
Yes.
This is a very long story.
Yeah, wait until you get to the next one. The next one has way longer list
I
of
just realized
detailed.
if we're on pace for this to be the longest episode yet.
Good. And it's my episode.
Alright, guys. Anyway, we're gonna end it here. No.
Oh, you don't no.
Like and subscribe for part 2.
Alright, Zach, go ahead and say
Your
it.
ass. All right. On the night of 22nd of June, Harmon was observed by the two undercover officers prowling Hanover Station. He was soon observed arguing with a 15-year-old boy named Carl Fromm. Then approaching police and insisting they arrest the youth on the charge of traveling upon forged documents. Upon his arrest, Fromm informed police he had been living with Harmon for 4 days and that he had been repeatedly raped by his accuser, sometimes as a knife was held to his throat. Harmon was arrested the following morning and charged with sexual assault. Following his arrest, Harmon's attic apartment at number 2 Rate Rai was searched. Harmon had lived in the single apartment since 1923. The flooring, walls, and bedding within the apartment were found to be extensively blood-stained. Oh Lord have mercy.
Oh my god.
Harmon initially attempted to explain this fact as a byproduct of his illegal trading in contraband meat. Various acquaintances and former neighbors of Harmon were also extensively questioned as to his activities. Many fellow tenants and neighbors of the various addresses in which Harmon lived since 1920 commented to detectives about the number of teenage boys they observed visiting his various addresses. Moreover, some had seen him leaving his property with concealed sacks, bags, or baskets, invariably in the late evening or early morning hours. Two former tenants informed police that in spring of 1924 they had discreetly followed Herman from his apartment to observe him discarding a heavy sack into the Lean River. They got him right there. And then they found all the clothes from these people he killed. As the days pass, an increasing number of the items were identified by family members as having belonged to their sons and brothers. Harmon initially attempted to dismiss these revelations as being circumstantial in nature, which I don't know how that would work, but hey. And he claimed that he acquired these clothes through trading, which makes no sense. And then that remaining items had been left behind by youths with whom he'd engaged in consensual sexual activities. Yeah, consensual, probably not. Just saying. The turning point on the night 29th of July when clothes, boots, and keys found stowed at Harmon's apartment were identified as belonging to missing 18-year-old Robert Witzel. A skull that had been found in the garden on 20th May, which was initially connected with other skeletal discoveries determined to be linked to Harmon, was identified as that of the missing youth. A friend of Witzel's then identified the police officer whom Witzel had been seen with on the day of his disappearance as Harmon. Boy, oh boy. When convicted with this evidence, it said that Harmon briefly attempted to bluster his way out of these latest and most damning pieces of evidence. When Witzel's jacket was found in the possession of his landlady, he was confronted with various witness testimonies as to his destroying identification marks on the clothing. He broke down and had to be supported by his sister. His confession. Oh boy. You ready for the confession?
No, but continue.
Let's hear it.
Oh man. Faced with the latest evidence and upon urging of his sister, Harmon confessed to raping, killing, dismembering many young men in what he initially described as a rabid sexual passion. Oh god. Between 1918 to 1924. According to Harmon, he never actually intended to murder any of his victims, but would be seized by irresistible urge to bite into or through their Adam's apple, often as he manually strangled them in their throes of ecstasy, before typically collapsing atop the victim's body Only one intending victim had escaped from Harmon's apartment after he attempted to bite into his Adam's apple, although this individual is not known to have reported the attack to the police. All of Harmon's victims' bodies were discovered via dismemberment shortly after their murder, and Harmon was insistent that he found the act of dismemberment extremely unpleasant. He stated, been ill for 8 days after his first murder. Nonetheless, Harmon was insistent that his passion of the moment of murder was invariably stronger than the horror of cutting and the chopping, which would inevitably follow and would typically take up to 2 days to complete. Oh boy. To fortify himself to dismember his victims' bodies, Harmon would pour himself a cup of strong black coffee, then place the body on top of place place the body of his victim upon the floor of the apartment and cover the face in cloth before first removing his intestines, which he would later place inside a bucket. A towel would then be repeatedly placed inside the abdomen cavity to soak the collecting blood. He would then make 3 cuts into the victim's ribs and shoulders, then take hold of the ribs and push the bones around their shoulders until they broke. The victim's heart, lungs, and kidneys would then be removed, diced, and placed in the same bucket which held the intestines before the legs and arms would be severed from the body. Harmon would then begin paring the flesh from the limbs and torso. The surplus flesh would be disposed of in the toilet, or usually in a nearby river. The final section of the victim's body to be dismembered was invariably the head. After severing the head from the torso, Harmon would use a small kitchen knife to strip all the flesh from the skull, which he would then wrap in rags and place face downwards upon a pile of straw, bludgeon with an axe until the skull splintered, engaging him to access the brain. This he would also place in the bucket, which he would pour alongside the chopped up bones and the lean. Jesus Christ.
That
So you mean to
is.
tell me that this dude bit into people's
Adam's
throats?
apple. And would get disgusted by dismembering them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sense
doesn't
does that
happen.
make?
Makes zero.
It doesn't. Yeah, no.
It's like, yeah, I'll just eat this guy's throat, but God forbid
Yeah, no. Like.
get any blood on you.
And then he said that he was insistent to none of the skulls found in the lean belonged to his victims, and that the forensic identification of the skull of Robert Wetzel was a mistake, as he had almost invariably smashed his victims' skulls to pieces. The exception being those of his earliest victims killed several years prior to his arrest, and that of his last victim, Eric DeVries. Although insistent that none of the murders were premeditated, investigators discovered much circumstantial evidence suggesting that several murders had been planned hours or days in advance.
Can
But
you
investigators,
imagine just having a conversation with that guy?
I would not. He looks. If you look at the picture of him, you'll understand why. Like, no.
No. I just mean like,
Yeah.
these police are telling him exactly what he did, and he just goes, "No, actually, I did this."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes into like more detail.
Yeah. Harmon stated there are some victims you don't know about, but it's not those you think. When asked how many victims he killed, Harmon claimed somewhere between 50 and 70. The police, however, could only connect Harmon with the disappearance of 27 youths, and he was charged with 27 murders, some of which he claimed were committed upon the assistance of Hans Grans, who was arrested 8th of July and formally charged with being an accessory to murder 1 week later. 16 August 1924, Harmon underwent psychological examination at Göttingen Medical School. He was judged competent to stand trial and return to Hanover to await trial. Which his trial was just the whole thing, basically, of like what he did and his convictions. And then he was then later murdered. Well, he wasn't murdered, but he was um, killed by execution by guillotine and beheaded 15th April of 1925. His executioner was Karl Grofer, Roepler, in accordance with German tradition, Harmon was not informed of his execution date until the prior evening. Upon receipt of the news, he observed prayer with his pastor before being granted his final wish of expensive cigar to smoke and Brazilian coffee to drink in his cell. No members of the press were permitted to witness the execution, and the event was seen by only a handful of witnesses, according to published reports. Although Harmon was pale and nervous, he maintained a sense of bravado as he walked into the guillotine. The last words Harmon spoke were, "I am guilty, gentlemen, but hard though it may be, I want to die as a man." Immediately prior to placing his head upon the execution apparatus, Harmon added, "I repent, but I do not fear death."
Huh.
And he was killed. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Fucked. We'll say that. There was a film adaptation called Ein Fritz Lang, or the name was just Fritz Lang's in 1931. It's a German film.
It was made in 1931?
Yeah. So before the, funny mustache man came to power. But
I just kind of want to watch it now.
yeah, it might be good. You never
Alright,
know, but
guys, do I hear a movie night?
Yeah,
possible.
copyrighted. Totally. Great idea.
You ready for the last one?
No.
I, for one, am horrified.
Andre Chikatilo.
Um,
Oh man.
that sounds familiar.
Andrei Romanovich fucking Chikatilo was a Ukrainian-born Soviet serial killer named the Butcher of Rostov, the Rostov Ripper, and the Red Ripper, who sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990 in the Russian SFSR, the Ukrainian SSR, and the Uzbek SSR.
Why'd you have to go with this one?
You should see his picture. Looks like a really kind man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
I'm fucking with it. Okay. Chikatilo confessed to 56 murders. He was tried for 53 murders in April of 1992. My bad. He was convicted and sentenced to death for 52 of these murders in October of 1992. Although the Supreme Court of Russia ruled in 1993 that insufficient evidence existed to prove his guilt in 9 of those killings, Chikatilo was executed by gunshot in February 1994.
Oh wow,
Oh.
that was a quick story.
Okay. Jesus Christ. He was born to.
Wait, hold on, just real quick. Is there
Yes.
like any trigger warning?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
He didn't read any of this. He just hit copy
No.
and paste.
Copy and paste. Oh,
Am I wrong?
maybe.
Oh, I am wrong? You typed this all out?
No.
I thought so.
Kind of reading like parts from Wikipedia. Sorry. But so he was born in 1936 in Yablutcha, Sumy Oblast of Ukraine in the Soviet Union. Let's see. His father was a conscript into the Red Army. He would later be taken prisoner after being wounded in combat between 1941 and 1944. He also witnessed some of the effects of the Nazis' occupation of Ukraine, which he described as horrors, adding he witnessed bombings, fires, and shootings from which he and his mother would hide in cellars and ditches. On one occasion, Chikatilo and his mother were forced to watch their own hut burn to the ground. With his father at war, Chikatilo and his mother shared a single bed. He was a chronic bedwetter, and his mother berated and beat him for each offense. Jesus Christ. Already a fucked up childhood.
I'm having trouble feeling empathy for this man.
I'm having very hard.
Yeah, no, literally none.
Yeah. Because Chickatall, his father, had been conscripted in 1941, he would not have fathered his child, as many Ukrainian women were raped by German soldiers during the war. It has been speculated Tatiana was conceived as a result of a rape committed by a German soldier. As
Jesus.
Chickatall and his mother lived in a one-room hut, this rape may have been committed with his presence being there. Oh my.
Oh my god.
His adolescence. He was a model student and ardent communist. Already fucked up there. He was appointed editor of his school's newspaper at the age of 14 and the chairman of the Pupils Communist Party Committee 2 years later. On the onset of puberty, Chickatalo discovered that he had chronic impotence. I think he had erectile dysfunction, essentially, worsening his social awkwardness and self-hatred. He was shy in the company of women. His first crush at the age of 17 had been a girl named Lilia Barsheva, with whom he had became acquainted throughout his school newspaper. Yet he was chronically nervous in her company, never asked her for a date. The same year, Chikatalo jumped upon an 11-year-old friend of his younger sisters and wrestled her to the ground, and ejaculating as the girl struggled in his grasp.
Oh, I know who this guy is. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Following his graduation, he applied for a scholarship at MSU, Moscow State University. Although he passed the entrance examination with good to excellent scores, his grades were not deemed good enough for acceptance. He speculated his scholarship application was rejected due to his father's tainted war record. His father had been branded a traitor for being taken prisoner in 1943. But the truth was that other students had performed better in a highly competitive exam. He did not attempt to enroll at another university. Instead, he traveled to the city of Kursk, where he worked as a laborer for 3 months before, in 1955, enrolling in a vocational school. The same year, he formed his first relationship with a local girl 2 years his junior. On 3 occasions, the couple attempted intercourse, but on each occasion, he was unable to sustain an erection. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. This is kind of describing. This is like fucked.
Once
After
again,
18,
still
what?
having trouble to find empathy for this
Yeah,
man.
literally none still.
He broke off the relationship after 18 months. He then decided to serve his 2 year, uh, his army service. Upon completion of his 2 year vocational training, he relocated to the Ural city of Nizdagil to work upon a long-term construction project. While living there, he also undertook corresponding courses in engineering with Moscow Electro-Technical Institute of Communication. He worked in the Urals for 2 years and then was drafted to the Soviet Army in 1957. He performed his compulsory military service between 1957 and 1960. Assigned first to serve with border guards in Central Asia, then to KGB communications unit in Eastern Berlin. Here, his work record was unblemished, and he joined the Communist Party shortly before his military service ended in 1960. Upon completing his service, he returned to his native village to live with his parents briefly before working alongside them on the collective farm. Basically, a farm owned by, yeah. When he was interviewed in 1993, he stated that, one, he, oh my God. He soon became acquainted with a young divorcee. Their 3 month relationship ended after several unsuccessful attempts at intercourse, after which the woman innocently asked her friends for advice as to how might overcome his inability to maintain erection. As a result, most of his peers discovered his impotence. And then when he was interviewed in 1993 regarding this incident, he stated that girls going behind my back whispering that I was impotent. I was so ashamed I tried hanging myself. My mother and some young neighbors pulled me out of the news. Well, I thought no one would want such a shamed man, so I had to run away from my homeland.
Why did they have to save him?
I
Yeah,
don't know.
no.
We should
Sounds
probably
awful to
not.
say, but once you look at the
should
big
probably
picture,
Wait until I tell you what one of his careers are. He moved
I
to the
swear to God.
Rostov. What?
You said his careers?
One of his career, yeah.
I swear to God, if you say welder.
No.
It's like
No.
it's like funny story.
Probably
So,
probably something he shouldn't be doing with a record he already has.
oh God.
Oh
He
no.
he found a job as a communications engineer in a town located north of Rostov-on-Don. And who the fuck is texting me? Fuck off. He returned to the Russian SFSR in 1961, renting a small apartment. The same year, his younger sister Tatiana finished her schooling and moved into his apartment. His parents relocated to Rostov region shortly thereafter. Tatiana lived with her brother for 6 months before marrying local youth and moving to her in-laws' home. She noted nothing on tour with regard to her brother's lifestyle beyond his chronic shyness and around women, and resolved to help her brother find a wife and start a family, which he married in 1963 to a woman named Fedosia Odnacheva, to whom he had been introduced by his younger sister, according to him. Although he was attracted to Fedosia, his marriage was effectively an arranged one, which occurred barely 2 weeks after they had met, and the decisive roles were played by his sister and her husband. It was later claimed that his marital sex life was minimal and that after his wife understood he was unable to maintain an erection, they agreed she would conceive by ejaculating externally and pushing his semen inside her vagina with 2 fingers.
What the fuck?
What the fuck is this shit? In 1965, she gave
Hey,
birth to a
don't
daughter.
ask me. You're the one who looked it up.
Shut up, bruh. Like, 4 years later, in 1969, a son named Yuri was born. Okay, you ready? You ready? You ready? You ready to hear one of his careers?
I don't think I am.
No.
Teaching career.
I had a feeling that was coming.
Oh, I chose to enroll as a correspondence student at the Rostov University in 1964, studying Russian literature and philology. He obtained his degree in these subjects in 1970. Shortly before obtaining his degree, he obtained a job managing regional sports activities. Oh man, renamed in this position for one, he remained in that position for 1 year before beginning his career as a teacher of Russian language and literature at a vocational school number 32 in Shaktinsk. Okay. He was largely ineffective as a teacher, although knowledgeable in the subject he taught. He was seldom able to maintain discipline in his class and was regularly subjected to mockery by students. Who he claimed took advantage of his modest nature. One of his duties at the school ensured students who boarded at the school were present in their dormitories in the evenings. On several occasions, he is known to have entered the girls' dormitory in the hope of seeing them undressed.
Okay.
Oh, God.
On other occasions, he discovered adolescent pupils who boarded at the school engaged in sex. He later stated that the sight of adolescents engaged in intercourse disturbed him, as he was comforted with the sight of children do what I hadn't done even when I was 30 years old. Oh my God.
I'm sick.
All right. Let's go with sexual assaults.
I'm sorry. That was plural.
Yeah. Meaning multiple, Zach.
This
And I can tell you there's multiple because I'm
on.
seeing
I'm
two,
saying
three.
I'm saying right now, this is probably one of the worst cases I've ever
Yeah,
read.
no, it's
One
definitely
of.
it's definitely the worst I've ever read, and I actually puked when I was reading it. So, for the audience, you're fucking welcome. Because I had to read this shit before you're hearing it come out of my mouth.
Well,
And let me tell you.
no, Ethan, that is exactly how I was last week with the
Mhm.
with that one suspect.
Yeah, dude, like this actually like made me sick to my stomach because I mean, you guys know about like my family history of certain
Mm-hmm.
stuff in the past that's happened. So this like really like hit home for me a little bit, and it made me sick to my stomach to hear some of the things that I had to read in this. So, yeah. But let's get this fucking started, because I have to fucking do this. Thank you, audience, for making me hate my life.
Hey,
You
no,
all.
we all agreed to this, by the way.
I did. I
We
could have just chose a different
chose
one.
this.
I could have chose a different one, but I wanted to
That
go with the
you
worst one
could've.
that ended
You
it.
know, I just realized something. If you think about it, like we saw it with Zax that yeah, it was disturbing, but it wasn't
Yeah.
sickening.
It's
Yeah,
it's
this
gotten
one's sickening.
worse. Yeah, late progressive worse and worse.
Yeah, like this is probably the worst one I think I have ever done, and it's by me. And if I'm going out with a bang, I'm going out with the fucking worst one. All right, fuck you guys. Eat
This
my
is
dick.
the scale that we've been at. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's bad. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really bad. And then there's Aaron's, and it was like, oh, wow, this is really bad. And then Ethan
Yeah.
says, I need therapy.
I need therapy, please. Where am
I need
fucking
today's
therapy?
sponsor.
Oh yeah.
Raid Shadow Legends.
And obviously there's no sponsorship. It was all for
Sadly.
joke.
Sponsor us, please. Okay.
Wink, wink.
All right. Sexual assault. In May 1973, he committed his first known sexual assault upon one of his pupils. Oh my god. In this incident, he swam towards a 15-year-old girl and groped her breasts and genitals, ejaculating. Okay. I'm not. I'm gonna like skip over some parts because this is like actually making me sick right now. But he did some things where the girl struggled against his grab. Months later, he sexually assaulted and beat another teenage girl whom he had locked in his classroom. He was not disciplined for either of these incidents, nor for the occasions in which fellow teachers observed him fondling himself in the presence of his students.
Of course not.
Soviet Union, Russia, Ukraine. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck? Alright. And the response to the increasing number of complaints lodged against him by his pupils, the director of the school summoned to a formal meeting and informed him he should either resign voluntarily or be fired. He left his employment discreetly and found another job as a teacher in another school in Novoshatinsk in January of 1973.
Wait. You need to tell me he found another job for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
There was no background checks.
Apparently not.
This was
1974.
I was about to say, this was the 70s.
But even
He
In
lost-
Russia.
Yeah, he lost this job as a result of staff cutbacks in September of 1978. Thank God. Before finding another teaching. Fuck me.
Oh my god.
In technical school number 33 in Shakhty, a coal mining town 47 miles north of Rostov. By own admission, by the mid-1970s, his desire to view naked children drove him to loiter around public toilets where he frequently spied on young girls. He also purchased chewing gum, which gave to the female children he encountered in an effort to initiate contact and gain their trust. He is known to have sexually assaulted at least 3 girls whom he encountered via this method.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. His career as a teacher ended in 1981 of March following several complaints of child molestation against pupils of both sexes. The same month he began a job as a supply clerk for a factory based in Rostov, which produced construction materials. This job required him to travel extensively across much of the Soviet Union, either to physically purchase the raw materials or required to fulfill production quotas or to negotiate supply contracts.
Ethan,
At
why?
least the teaching portion of his career is over.
I hope. I swear to God, if I read something about him being a teacher,
You said you had to read it before.
I did. If I have to read it again. I read like parts of it, I like skimmed through it, but some parts I just avoid to read because it was just disgusting. I could not like actually read it. So, for the audience, you're fucking welcome. Fuck you. If you have to hear it, I had to read it. Fuck you. But let's go on with his first murder. I think. His initial murders, it says.
Thank God, something lighthearted.
Yelena
Imagine
Zatanova.
imagine how bad you have to be that murder is better.
And got it. Well, if I remember this one correctly, he did some things to this girl
Oh my God.
Oh,
where he
Ethan,
murdered.
why did you have to pick this person?
I literally looked up serial killers in the Soviet Union, and this was like the worst one.
You're making Jim Jones sound like a not that bad guy.
Hey, listen.
By the way, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
You
well,
look.
obviously don't drink the fucking
This
Kool-Aid.
guy literally makes like John Conn, like the angel.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right,
But
I'll pause.
all right, let's talk about this lady that he killed. If I remember correctly. Oh yeah, that's right. She was 9 years old, and
Oh
she,
my
What?
God.
yeah, September 1978, he moved to that coal mining town, Shakati, where he committed his first documented murder on the evening of 22nd December, and where he lured a 9-year-old girl named Yelena Zakotanova to an old, dilapidated hut which he had secretly purchased that year. He attempted to rape her but failed to achieve an erection. When the girl struggled, he choked her and stabbed her 3 times in the abdomen, ejaculating while stabbing this child. In an interview in 1990 arrest, he later recalled that immediately after he stabbed the girl, he had said something very hoarsely, whereupon he strangled her into unconsciousness before throwing her body into the nearby Grushkeveka River. Her body was found beneath a nearby bridge 2 days later. Oh my God.
You know, I'm fully convinced that when
This man.
comparing this guy to Charles Manson,
Charles Manson looks like sunshine and rainbows right now.
Oh my God.
he's like puppies and kittens compared to this
Yeah,
guy.
this guy's.
Why,
Oh,
why am I here?
okay.
Because we
Why am I
chose to
doing
be.
this?
We chose
Second
this.
murder and subsequent killings. 1981, he encountered a 17-year-old boarding school student, Larissa Tkatenko, sitting at a bus stop as he exited a public library in Rostov City Center. According to his subsequent confession, he lured Tkatenko to a forest near the Don River with the pretext of drinking vodka and relaxing, in quotations. When they reached a secluded area, he threw the girl to the ground before tearing off her clothes and attempting intercourse. As Tkachenko demonstrated against his actions, when he failed to achieve an erection, he forced mud inside her mouth to stifle her screams before battering and strangling her to death. As he had no knife, he mutilated the body with his teeth and a
Oh my
6-foot
God.
long stick. He also tore
Oh
one nipple
God.
from the body with his teeth before loosely covering her body with leaves, branches, and torn pages of a newspaper. Her body was found the following day. Oh.
Please tell me, like,
Huh?
DNA evidence was still fresh.
Probably. I mean,
Because you
can't
said
really.
his teeth.
Yeah, but you also gotta think it's the Soviet Union in the 80s.
Oh, that's a
So,
good point.
but hold on. I gotta pee real quick, so do pause this time. So,
On pause.
okay. So after he killed that girl 9 months later, in 12th of June of 1982, he traveled by bus to the Bagyavezhsky district of Rostov to purchase vegetables. Having to change buses in the village of Donskoy, he decided to continue his journey on foot. Walking away from the bus station, he encountered a 13-year-old girl named Lyubov Birok,
Well, for
who
God's
was
sakes.
walking home from a shopping trip. The two walked together for approximately a quarter of a mile until their path was shielded from the view of a potential witness by bushes, whereupon he pounced upon Biryuk dragged her into a nearby undergrowth, tore off her dress, and killed her by stabbing and slashing her to death as he imitated performing intercourse, where her body was found on 27th of June. The medical examiner discovered evidence of 22 knife wounds inflicted to the head, neck, chest,
God.
and pelvic region. Further wounds found on the skull suggested the killer had attacked Biryuk from behind with the handle and the blade of his knife. In addition, several uh, cuts were discovered upon Biryuk's eye sockets. Oh man. After that murder, he no longer attempted to resist his homicidal urges. Between July and September of 1982, he killed a further 5 victims between the ages of 9 and 18. He established a pattern of approaching children, runaways, and young vagrants at bus or railway stations, inciting them to a nearby forest or other secluded area and killing them, usually by stabbing, slashing,
God.
and eviscerating the victim with a knife. Although some victims, in addition to receiving a multitude of knife wounds, were also strangled or battered to death. Many of the victims' bodies bore evidence of mutilation to the eye sockets. Pathologists concluded these injuries had been caused by a knife, leading investigators to the conclusion the killer had gouged out the eyes of the victim. His adult female victims were often prostitutes or homeless women who he would lure to secluded areas with promises of alcohol or money. He would typically attempt intercourse with these victims, but he would usually be unable to achieve or maintain an erection. This would send him into a murderous fury. Practically, if the women mocked his impotence, he would achieve orgasm only when he stabbed and slashed the victim to death. Oh man. His Chikatilo's child and adolescent victims were of both sexes. He would lure these victims to secluded areas using a variety of ruses, usually formed in the initial conversation with the victim, such as promising them assistance, company, or offering them a shortcut, a bus stop, a chance to via rare stamps, films, or coins, or with an offer of food or candy. He
Oh,
would usually overpower these victims once they were alone, often lying their hands behind their backs and with a length of rope before stuffing mud or loam, which is a soil composed mostly of sand, silt, or smaller amounts of clay, into the victim's mouth to silence their screams, and then proceeded to kill them. After the killing, Chikatilo would make rudimentary, though seldom serious, or efforts to conceal the body before leaving the crime scene. December 11th, 1982, he encountered a 10-year-old girl named Olga Salmenchiko riding a bus to her parents' home in Novoshatinsk and persuaded the child to leave the bus with him. He was last seen by a fellow passenger who reported that a middle-aged man had led the girl away firmly by the hand. Chikatilo lured the girl to a cornfield on the outskirts of the city, stabbed her in excess of 50 times around the head and body, ripped
oh
open her
my
chest, and
God.
excised her lower bowels and uterus. Oh my God. Uh, there
I
was an investigation in 1983. Uh, he didn't, the Moscow police team headed by Major Mikhail Fedisov was sent to Rostov to direct the investigations, and Fedisov established a team of 10 investigators based in Rostov, charged with solving all 4 cases. In March, Fedisov assigned a newly appointed forensic analyst, Viktor Birakov, to head the investigation. Um, the the following month, Salmonichkov's body was found. Birakov was summoned to the crime scene, where he examined the numerous knife wounds, eviscerations conducted upon the child, and the cuts on her eye sockets. Durakov later stated that as he noticed cuts upon the eye sockets, any doubt about the presence of the serial killer evaporated. He did not kill until June of 1983, where he murdered a 15-year-old Armenian girl named Laura Sarkisian. Her body was found close to the unmarked railway platform near Shakhtarya. By September, he had killed a further 5 victims. The accumulation of bodies found and the similarities between the patterns of wound inflicted on the victims of the Soviet authorities to acknowledge that a serial killer was on the loose. September 6th of 1983, the public prosecutor of the Soviet Union formally linked 6 of the murders thus far attributed to the same serial killer. Oh boy. Hold on, I'm taking a sip of coffee.
Oh wait, there's more.
Oh yeah,
I
there's
don't
more.
want it to be more.
There's a whole fucking list of shit, man. There's a file murder, there's blood analysis. I'm not even gonna talk about the trial. I'm guessing he probably get what's his, essentially. But due to the sheer savagery of the murders and the precision of the eviscerations upon the victims' bodies, police theorized that the killings had been conducted by either a group harvesting organs to sell for transplant, the work of a satanic cult, or a mentally ill individual. Well, they got that one
The
right.
third option.
Yes. Much of the police efforts concentrated upon the theory that the killer must be mentally ill, homosexual, or pedophile, and the alibis of an individual who had either spent time in a psychiatric ward or had been convicted of homosexuality or pedophilia were checked and logged in a card filing system. Registered sex offenders were also investigated, and if their alibi was or like they lined up and everything, eliminated from the inquiry. Beginning of September 1983, several young men confessed to the murders, although these individuals were often intellectually disabled youths who admitted to the crimes only under prolonged and often brutal interrogations. 3 known homosexuals and convicted sex offenders committed suicide as a result of the investigators' heavy-handed tactics. As a result of the investigation, more than 1,000 unrelated crimes, including 95 murders, 140 aggravated assaults, and 245 rapes were solved. However, as the police obtained confessions from suspects, bodies continued to be discovered, proving that the suspect who had confessed could not be the killer they were seeking. And on October 30th, 1983, the eviscerated body of 19-year-old prostitute Vera Shevkun was found in Shakhty. Shevkun had been killed on the 27th of October. All the mutilations inflicted upon her body were otherwise characteristic of those found upon the victims linked to the unknown murder. The victim's eyes had not been, and oh fuck, how do you pronounce this? Removed, essentially, or otherwise
Exhumed.
wounded. Yeah. No, it's Enucleated. I don't know how to pronounce that. You're smarter than me. I'm Marine. I'm dumb. All right. We don't do fucking English. We do fuck, fuck. You get fucked. Fuck, fuck.
Send it to
All right.
me. I'll see if I can read it.
All right. I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm trying to get this done before it makes me more sick because I already fucking puked.
Understandable.
All right. So, 2 months later, December 24th of 19, I believe 83, a 14-year-old Gukovo schoolboy Sergei Markov was lured off a train and murdered at a rural station in Novocherkassk, Cossack, or whatever the fuck. Markov was emasculated and suffered over 70 knife wounds to his neck and upper torso
Oh God.
before being eviscerated. Let's go on to the fucking 1984, shall we?
No, we just don't.
Hold on, let me take another sip of coffee.
Do we have that option? Just stop now.
We can, if you want, but
No.
I'm not opposed to it.
but our viewers, that's what I'm doing it for. They wanted true crime. We're giving them true crime. Okay, January and February of 1984, he killed 2 women in Rostov's Park of Aviators. On the 24th of March, he lured a 10-year-old boy named Dmitry Tashnikov away from the stamp kiosk in Novoshatinsk. While walking with the boy, he was seen by several witnesses who were able to give investigators a detailed description of the killer. So, that's a prop. We're getting somewhere. He's about to get arrested, hopefully, right?
Probably not. You did just say not that long ago it wasn't until a couple years later.
You're right.
But hey, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Gotta admit that.
That kid's body was found 3 days later. Police also found a footprint of this killer in both the semen and saliva samples on the victim's clothing. The 25th of May, he killed a young woman named Tatiana Petrosyan and her 10-year-old daughter Svetlana in a wooded area outside of Shakhty. Petrosyan had been known. She'd known him for several years prior to her murder. By the end of July, he had killed 3 additional young women between the ages of 19 and 21, and a 13-year-old boy. In the summer of 1984, he was fired from his work as a supply clerk for the theft of 2 rolls of linoleum. The accusation had linoleum? Oh, my fault. The accusation had been filed against him previous February and had been asked to resign quietly, but had refused to do so as he had denied the charges. He found another job as a supply clerk in Rostov on the 1st of October. Following day, in August, he killed a 16-year-old girl named Natalia Golosovskaya in the Park of Aviators. On the 7th of August, he lured a 17-year-old girl named Ludmila Alexeyevaya to the banks of the Don River on the pretense of showing her a shortcut to a bus terminal. She suffered 39 slash wounds to her body before mutilated and disemboweled, and he disemboweled her, intentionally inflicting wounds he knew would not be immediately fatal. Oh, she suffered.
That's just torture.
Yeah. Her body was found the following morning, her excised upper lip inside her mouth. Hours after that murder, he flew to Uzbek capital Tashkent as on a business trip to purchase electrical switches. By the time he returned to I should have put whiskey in this coffee. By the time he returned to Rostov on the 15th of August, he had killed an unidentifiable young woman and a 10-year-old girl, Akmaral Sadadyeva. Within 2 weeks, the nude body of the 11-year-old boy named Alexander Chepel was discovered on the banks of the Don River. Strangled and castrated, his eyes gouged out, just yards from Alexeyeva's body and had earlier been found. On the 16th of September, he killed a young librarian, 24-year-old Irana Lochinskaya, in the Park of Aviators. Oh boy. It just keeps going. First arrest and release. Okay. Well, you got arrested
First
once.
arrest?
And release.
Oh, wonderful.
One.
That is
I
sickening.
don't think I want to hold on.
I'm barely holding on to my lunch, okay?
Yeah.
You still
I know.
have that?
I threw up my dinner, so I'm hungry, but I'm also at the loss of an appetite now. So, motherfucker. Great.
Out of curiosity, why did you choose this one?
I didn't think it would be this bad. All right.
His
I
nickname was the Red Ripper.
I briefly read it in the beginning. I didn't read the whole thing.
Well,
So,
now you
that's
know.
my fault.
Now
Yeah, now I know I'm going to have to read the whole thing before I make myself sick.
You said earlier you read it
Yeah, I
partially
did. Partially,
and made
it
yourself
still made
sick
me
to your
sick.
stomach.
Yeah, I
What
thought,
makes you think, you know what? I should read more of it.
Mm,
Just a thought.
I don't know. But you ready?
No.
No.
I'm not drinking alcohol. Maybe this
Don't
will
blame
help.
me.
Here, this is gonna be just a free beer. We all need it.
Yeah, you can give me a bottle of whiskey on top of that.
I
Yeah.
think we've earned it.
Here you go.
All right. So, 13th of September 1984, he was observed by two undercover detectives attempting to talk to a young woman at the Rostov bus station. They followed him as he wandered through the city, trying to approach women and committing acts of tourism. Tourism. Uh, it's a paraphilic interest in rubbing usually one's pelvic area or erect penis against a non-consenting person for sexual pleasure. Oh, great.
Huh.
I wish I didn't read that. In public spaces. Upon arrival at the city center market, he was arrested and held. A search of his belongings revealed a knife with a 20 centimeter or 7.9-inch blade, several lengths of rope, and a jar of Vaseline. Oh boy. He was also discovered, oh god, to be under investigation for minor theft at his former employers, which gave the investigators the legal right to hold him for a prolonged period of time. Dubious background covered, and his physical description matched the description of the man seen walking alongside Dmitry Tashnikova prior to the boy's murder. A sample of his blood was taken, the results of which revealed the blood grew to be type A, whereas semen samples found upon a total of 6 victims murdered by the unknown killer throughout the spring and summer of 1984 had been classified by medical examiners as being type AB. He was named His name was added to the card index file used by investigators. However, the results of his blood type analysis largely counted him as being the unknown killer. He was found guilty of theft and property from his previous employer. His membership to the Communist Party was revoked, and he was sentenced to 1 year in prison. He released from custody on the 12th of December 1984 after serving 3 months.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you need to so everything, all the horrible crimes he committed, and you said,
Yeah.
did that happen prior to his first arrest?
Yes.
And is confirmed that, like, was he
What?
charged with all those crimes already?
No, because they couldn't. As I said, his blood group to be a type A, but the samples of semen and saliva that was found on the total of 6 victims murdered by the unknown killer, which was definitely him, was classified by the medical examiners as being type AB, so they couldn't tie him to that evidence,
Oh,
which is weird. But at the same time, we're talking about the early 80s where DNA is still kind of new.
yeah, and we already had this discussion about DNA in my
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, and that was that it can, in the early periods of its invention of DNA evidence, it was iffy, so it wasn't always correct. So he was discontinued. They discontinued him for being the murderer. But yeah, he went to jail for that, and then he was released from custody after 3 months on December 12th of 1984. The head of the Russian Public Prosecutor's Office formally linked 23 of his murders into one case and dropped all charges against the mentally disabled youths who had previously confessed to the murders, and that was on 8th of October of 1984. Which, upon his release from prison in 1984, in December, he found new work within the supply department of a locomotive factory in Novotarask and kept a low profile. He did not kill again until the 1st of August of 1985, when on a business trip to Moscow. He encountered an 18-year-old woman named Natalia Pakadostova standing on a railway platform near the airport She was lured off a train into a thicket of woods close to the village of Vostrykov, Ovo, where she was bound, stabbed 38 times in the neck and chest, and then strangled to death. Based on the hypothesis, the killer had traveled from the Rostov Oblast to Moscow via air. Investigators checked all flight records. Yada yada yada. On this occasion, however, he had traveled to Moscow by train, and accordingly, no documentation exists for investigators to research. 4 weeks later, he killed another young woman, Irina Galea, in Shakti, as had been the case with the other one. And the wounds inflicted upon the victim linked her murder to the hunt for the serial killer. 1985, a special prosecutor, Isa Kostolyeva, was appointed to supervise the investigation, which had by this stage expanded to include 15 procurators and 29 detectives assigned to work exclusively upon the manhunt. The known murders linked to the manhunt were carefully reinvestigated, and police began another round of questioning of the known sex offenders and homosexuals. The following month, the militia, which was the police forces in the Soviet Union, it's like their nationwide police force essentially, resumed patrolling of railway stations around Rostov, and plainclothes female officers were ordered to loiter around bus and train stations. At the request of Birakov, police also took the steps of consulting a psychiatrist, Dr. Alexander Volkanovsky, the first such consultation in a serial killer investigation in the Soviet Union. All crime scene and medical examiner reports were made available to him upon the understanding he would produce psychological profile of the unknown murderer for investigators. Which I can read you the investigators his psychological profile, but
Let's see.
he described the killer as a reclusive man between the ages of 45 and 50, which sounds about right for this time period. For our piece of shit of a person, endured a
What do you
painful and
mean
isolated
person?
childhood. Actually, he's not a person. You're right.
It's a monster.
Worm. Yeah.
I think
Painful
even
and
that's being
isolated
too generous.
childhood, and who was incapable of flirting or courtship with women. This individual was well educated, likely to be married and to have father children, but also a sadist who suffered from impotence and could achieve sexual arousal and release only by seeing his victims suffer. Sounds like him to a T.
Yep.
Alright, so that's his, like, basically fucking psychological profile that they came up with. Follow the investigation carefully. He followed the investigation carefully, reading newspaper reports and about the manhunt for the killer, which had begun to appear in the press, and keeping his homicidal urges under control. For almost a year following the August 1985 murder of Golyeva, no further victims were found in either Rostov or Moscow Oblast, whose bodies bore the signature mutilations of the unknown murderer. Investigators did tentatively link the murder of a 33-year-old woman named Lyubov Golovka, found stabbed to death in the Isinokolovia district. Jesus Christ. In Rostov, 23rd of July, 1986, to the investigators, although this was solely upon the basis that the killer's semen type matched that of the killer they were seeking, that the victim had been stripped naked prior to her murder, and then she had been stabbed to excessive of 20 times. The victim had not been dismembered or otherwise mutilated, nor had she been seen near mass transportation. Because of this discrepancies, many investigators expressed serious doubts as to whether her murder had been committed by the killer they were seeking. There's so much. Alright. So, investigative
Are we at
theories.
least like halfway through?
Well, we got definitive resurfacing, snare, surveillance and second arrest, confession, trial, execution.
Okay, I want to hear the trial and execution.
Okay, right now?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just do that and call it a one, because there's more killings.
No, I don't want to hear any more about that.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying there's a lot more, and they get worse. There's 22, 16.
No. No.
Yeah.
I think we've been scarred enough for one day.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
I already wouldn't be able to sleep tonight.
trial, shall we?
Yes.
He was brought into trial on 14th of April, 1992, charged with 53 counts of murder in addition to 5 charges of sexual assault against minors committed when he had been a teacher. Was tried to courtroom number 5 of the Rostov Provisional Court before Judge Leonid Akubjanova. I don't know how to pronounce that. His trial was the first major media event of post-Soviet Russia. Shortly after his psychiatric evaluation at the Serbsky Institute, investigators had conducted a press conference in which full list of his crimes were released to the press alongside a 1984 identikit of the individual charge, but not the full name of it or a photograph of the accused. The media first saw him on the first day of his trial as he entered an iron cage specifically constructed in a corner of the courtroom to protect him from attack by the enraged and hysterical relatives of his victims.
Yeah,
Fuck
they
that.
literally built a cage in the courtroom to protect him.
I would have
I
fucking
would.
said fuck that. No, fuck that. Why protect him? Let the fucking family tear him limb to limb.
Because
Fuck
that's
that.
not justice, unfortunately.
Well, to me, that's justice. In the opening weeks of
I
the trial, the
agree.
Russian press regularly published exaggerated and often sensationalistic headlines about the murders, referring to him being a cannibal or maniac, and to him physically resembling a shaven-skulled demonic individual. Ow.
Bless you.
First 2 days of the trial devoted by the judge reading the long list of indictments against him. Each murder discussed individually on several occasions. Relatives present in the courtroom broke down in tears or fainted when details of their relatives' murders were released. After reading the indictment, the judge announced to the journalists present in the courtroom his intentions to conduct an open trial, stating, let this trial at least teach us something so that this will never happen anytime or anywhere again." The judge then asked Chikatalu to stand, identify himself, and provide his date and location of birth. He complied, although this would prove to be one of the few civil exchanges between the judge and Chikatilo. Chikatilo was initially questioned in detail, each charge upon the indictment. Responding to specific questions regarding the murders, he often gave dismissive replies to questions, particularly when in question as to the specific nature of the wounds he had inflicted upon his victims and the ruse he had used to entice his victims to the location he had killed them. He would become indignant only when accused of stealing personal possessions from the victims or to retaining organs excised from the victims missing from the crime scene. On occasion, when asked as his seeming indifference to the lifestyle and gender of those whom he had killed, he replied, "I did not need to look for them. Every step I took, they were there." In what became a regular, through not continuous occurrence, throughout the trial, the judge berated him as he questioned him in detail as to the charges, ordering him to shut your fucking mouth was one, before adding you're not crazy, as Chikatilo responses to questions deviated into discussing issues such as the repression his family endured throughout his childhood and is claiming that the charges filed against him were false. These verbal exchanges would occur whether Chikatilo was cooperative or uncooperative throughout proceedings. In the manner in which the judge questioned him repeatedly led his defense lawyer Murat Kalbilunin to protest against accusatory nature of the court proceedings. In this instance, in which Chikatilo was uncooperative throughout questioning, he would simply Shelter, the judge announced the court as a farce and launched into rambling, disjointed speeches on occasions. Chikatilo would also expose himself to the court or sing socialist movement anthems throughout proceedings. These antics regularly resulted in him being returned to his cell as court proceedings continued his absence. You just want to go on to the execution?
Yes.
Okay.
The sooner the better.
So, closing arguments, they basically, upon beginning his 90-minute closing argument, his lawyer first stated that he had confidence in his voice and he heard above the generally outcry for retribution against Chikatilo before questioning the reliability of the forensic evidence presented at the trial. The judge delivered him a closing argument before the judge. The prosecutor delivered a closing argument before the judge, harking towards the earlier testimonies and okay, and the court reconvened to hear a formal sentencing. The sentencing would not finish until the following day. The judge began sentencing by announcing Chikatilo guilty of 52 of the 53 murders for which he had been tried. He was sentenced to death for each offense. Chikatilo was also found guilty of 5 counts of sexual assault committed during these years he worked as a teacher in the 70s. In reciting findings, the judge read the list of murders again before criticizing both the police and the prosecutor's department for various mistakes in the investigation, which had led Chikatilo to remain free until 1990. Particular criticism was directed towards not local police, but the prosecutor's department, primarily prosecutor Isa Kostylova, whom the judge scathed as negligent and who had been dismissive of Chikatilo inclusion upon a 1987 suspect list compiled by police. The judge also rejected numerous claims that Kostylov had made to the media in the months prior to the trial that the police had deliberately withheld documents pertaining to Chikatilo from the prosecutor's department as being provably baseless, adding that proof existed he had been in possession of all the internal bulletins. On the 15th of October, the judge formally sentenced Chikatilo to death plus 86 years imprisonment for the 52 murders, 5 counts of sexual assault for which he had been found guilty. Chikatilo kicked his bench across his cage when he heard the verdict and began shouting abuse. However, when given an opportunity to make a speech in response to the verdict, he remained silent. Upon passing the final sentence, the judge made the following remark. Taking into consideration the horrible misdeeds of which he is guilty, this court has no alternative but to impose the only sentence that he deserves. I therefore sentence him to death. Chikatilo was taken from the courtroom to cell at Novocherkassk prison to await execution. He did lodge an appeal against his conviction with the Supreme Court of Russia, but this appeal was rejected in the summer of 1993. His execution would, following the rejection of his appeal by the Supreme Court, filed by him a final appeal for clemency with President Boris Yeltsin. This final appeal was rejected on the 4th of January, 1994. On the 14th of February, 1994, Chikatilo was taken from his death row cell to a soundproof room in Novocherkassk prison and executed with a single gunshot behind the right ear. He was buried in an unmarked grave within the prison cemetery. And they have a list of all the names of all the people he killed.
Oh my god.
There's 53. I can read off the names.
No.
Okay.
I think we've heard enough for one night.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
the most sickening thing I've ever heard.
I know. I'm not doing another one like that again.
I genuinely felt sick doing it.
I didn't need to go hug my dog.
I need to go drink a lot.
I'm gonna hug my kittens.
You know, you
Well,
could just hug.
well, I guess this is the end of True Crime Month.
Yep.
Wow.
When are we doing this again? Because I need to mentally prepare for the next one.
Probably not for a while.
Yeah.
I think we
Thanks,
all need
Ethan.
some recovery time.
Yeah, never doing a really bad one like this again.
Yeah, I thought mine were bad.
I thought.
Here.
I thought.
I'll show you a picture of him real quick. Hold on.
No.
Oh, I already know who it is.
Oh, you already know who he is?
Yeah, I've heard a
This is him.
light story of it.
Yeah.
Not in that detail.
Well. Well.
Here you go. That's what he looks like. That's him.
On. Jesus.
Yep. I'm kind of glad he got shot.
It should
They
have been a
should've
lot
just-
more.
Yeah, it should have been way more. They should have, maybe used a medium machine gun and just let a whole belt of 100 rounds just kill him and dismember him. That's just me.
But
Mm,
anyway, after that traumatizing one,
yeah,
thanks, Ethan.
my fault. I'm actually don't want to do this ever again. And if I do, I'm not doing something that bad. Ever.
Let's see. I do like the idea of talking about true crime once in a while.
Yeah, but I'm not doing
Not
one
that.
like that again. Yeah,
Yeah, can
that.
Can we all agree to
Not do one like I just did? Yes.
I
Yeah.
like that idea.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, Zach, say your thing.
Yeah, please.
You don't
Very good.
have to go home, but for the love of God, you cannot stay here.
And get the fuck home. I'm gonna go Kurt Cobain myself real quick.
No.
Why?
With that, the Gamers Tavern is now closed.
Thank God.
See ya.
Bro, this episode is gonna be the worst.